me get this camera fixed right. Hey, folks. Okay, all right, cool, that works. Hey, folks. Hey, happy Thursday. I made sure I was on time tonight, okay? I was like, I'm not trying to do a raffle every single time I'm late, right? Let me read a few quick chats and we'll just jump right into it. Let me adjust this computer a tiny bit. Let me adjust my positioning here. Okay. All right. Where are we at here? What up, Mario? What up, Santino Palazzo? Hey, Calvin. Hope you're well and made a near full recovery. I'm good. We're still battling, trying to get the weight back up, but outside of that, we're good. Let me see. Is this live? Catching up? I want to make sure we're live, right? Okay, yeah, we're good. Let's see here. Somebody said, let's go with up Avocado Queen. All right, we're gonna see if she's gonna shake the table with us tonight. Yeah, I can always count on her to be ready. Lauren Loomsden, what up? What up, Lewis Kim? Yeah, it's been a pretty busy everything, honestly, but I'm not complaining. You know what I mean? It comes with the territory. I've had to constantly tell myself in those moments where I'm like exhausted or overwhelmed that, the stuff is piling up because things are kind of working in your favor. You know what I mean? Like you put in the work for a lot of things. So this is the return that's coming. So some of it will come with extra responsibilities, but you know what? Overall, it's been a pretty dope experience. So I don't have any complaints. What up, Nicole? What up, D. Bradford? What up, Crystal? What up, Marlon? Yes, R. Collins, you made a live. Yes, you did. You made it. All right. Let me go ahead and go over a few quick things before I jump into our topics. I tried to not keep it super heavy tonight. Like sometimes my blood pressure be high. I got to break. Well, it don't really be high. I just be saying that. But man, it's just there's always so much going on where you just be like, all right. I don't know if y'all feel the same way. Where it's just like there's always so many things happening. And you're just like, all right. I'm kind of in all right mode. And so for my peace of mind, all right. But as far as announcements, like we said, the book club is going to start back on the 21st. We are reading Glow, the autobiography of Rick James. Now, listen, when it comes to the book club selections, y'all can't fight me over what y'all vote for, okay? Because I get it. It's kind of hard to kind of pick a book that everybody wants to read because there's, I think when we do the polls and stuff, like there's a bunch of y'all. So there's a bunch of different, people and perspectives that want to read certain things. So I try to kind of give as many options as I can and try to consider all the selections that you guys suggest. And that's why I passed the baton to you guys after I selected 12 that I think would be good for the sessions. So yeah, the Rick James book I think will be really interesting. I have not read this book before, so I'll be interested to see kind of where that goes. We did cover the documentary on this channel some years back when I think it aired on Showtime. But I think what I haven't read the book yet, but David Ritz is the one that did this book, and he's always done a really interesting job when it comes to like doing like celebrity biographies or autobiographies. He's able to kind of dissect and get all the goods in there. So we'll see how that goes. As far as the movie, like all of this was in my community tab. I'm just kind of doing a rehash. And then again, like I said, we Pull Over So I Can Hit You is in the Michaud Film Festival, and you're actually able to stream and watch Pull Over So I Can Hit You on Roku TV and Apple TV starting October 21st through November 23rd. You would just have to go to the actual Michaud Fest website. I believe I posted the link in the community tab. And then there are certain clusters or screening blocks that have all the films in it. Now, if you go to my community tab, the link takes you straight to our specific screening block that has our film plus some additional films that you get to watch. And then you just pay that way. And then come the 21st, you'll be able to screen the movie. So that's what that is. So yeah, that festival is October 21st through the 27th. But again, even if you're not in LA, you can watch it from anywhere in the world. So that's great for our international supporters that live in places like the UK or in Scotland or Korea or Germany, because we have people everywhere, or even people who are not in LA, but in the continental US or even in Alaska or Georgia, wherever. You can now watch it online, right? So that's really dope. And then, like I said, y'all already know the 2 albums are out. So my plate's been a little full because I'm kind of I'm doing the promotion wave and doing different podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. And I have a spread feature in Intrigue magazine, which is kind of dope because they highlighted the movie and also the 2 albums and did an album review for both albums. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, we got a little bit going on. Let me read a few more comments, and then I'm going to jump right into. I want to start with Hurricane Milton, and then we'll go from there. Let me see here. What up? What up? What up? Somebody said always something. Got to keep pushing. You really do, honestly, because the world ain't gonna stop spinning, at least at the moment. So got to keep it moving, right? What up, Black Anonymous? All right. Okay. So hello from Georgia. Hello. Okay, so I do want to start Hurricane Milton and again Hurricane Helene, which is kind of crazy. Speaking with Hurricane Helene, it's wild because when you saw kind of how the storm affected a totally different population that was unsuspecting, right? A lot of us were under the assumption that the storm would, hit Florida, part of Georgia, move up the East Coast, kind of just, be some tropical storm and everybody goes home and lives their life. When in reality, we ended up seeing what happened in places like Asheville, North Carolina, where everything just gets flooded out. And it really just shows you that like Mother Nature sometimes is going to do what it wants to do. Because when you're looking at a place like Asheville, this is a town or city that's 2,100 feet above ground, a place that you'd never think would have flash flooding, right? And so it's just interesting to kind of see sometimes that, as time progresses and as the world continues to go through the changes it goes through, especially with climate, there's going to be lots of moments where things that are super unsuspecting take place, right? Things that you couldn't necessarily always predict or, because sometimes even meteorologists underestimate the power of what Mother Nature can do. It's kind of like when you think of Hurricane Sandy, this was a Category 1, Category 2 storm when it initially hit, the U.S. And by the time it gets up to like New York, New Jersey, it's still a Cat 1, Cat 2. But when you look at the amount of damage it caused, because no one was expecting the area to get so hard or get hit so hard. And it's crazy because, DC got hit by the same storm. But for us, Hurricane Sandy was just, storm came and went. We was at my apartment. We had made like a low country boil and everything else like that. Was watching TV. The power didn't even go out. But then you just go up, I don't even think 200 miles. And it's an entirely different experience. So that's one of the things. But as far as with Hurricane Milton, which is the most recent one that we were all kind of watching yesterday and today as well. I don't want to say fortunately because it's still a hurricane that hit and people are dealing with a lot. But if there is a fortunately, it would be that the surge was not as high as it could have been. They were expecting 15, 20 feet to really just come in there, especially for those coastal areas, especially around like Tampa and everything. And fortunately, the surge was not that high, which is probably one of the reasons why there hasn't been a lot of casualties. There's still a lot of damage, right? But what was also scary is the wave of tornadoes that had come. Because also with hurricanes, sometimes you'll see tornadoes. There was a storm, I don't remember which one it was, some years back where they had 130 different tornadoes sprout off just from that storm. Because again, when you have high pressure and low pressure running together in these different storm systems, it creates a whole lot of things, including tornadoes, right? But yeah, now here's the question I do have. I always wonder, why is it that every time they have like these hurricanes, why do they always put the news anchor right out there in the middle of the storm? Like, to me, that is the wildest thing, right? You're literally like, everybody, okay, a hurricane, any sustained storm with winds of above 74 miles per hour. Okay, if it's a Cat 1, all right, sure, maybe the news anchor can stand out there, just kind of be on the lookout for twigs and branches that might be flying. But when these hurricanes start getting Category 3, 4, 5, why are you sending the anchors to stand out there with all this flying debris to give us a report about what we already know? Like, it's the wildest thing. I was looking, I saw they had Anderson Cooper out there fighting for his life. And it's like, y'all, it's weird. It takes me back. I remember summer of 99, there was a heat wave in Savannah, Georgia. And we just moved back to the US, right? So they had this crazy heat wave. Like in the South, it's just already hot anyway during the summer. It's humid. It's really bad. And so they had this news anchor. I don't remember her name, but it was this lady, and she wanted to highlight just how hot it was and how hot it can get in the car, because they were talking about, not leaving the babies and the pets and stuff in the car. So what does she do? She gets a thermometer and she puts it in the car. Cool, right? Okay, we're going to watch and just keep seeing the thermometer go up throughout the hour. Oh, no. Then she opens the car door, and then she gets in the car to sit. But in addition to that, she has her dog, a golden retriever. And then she's got the dog in the car. And then they roll up the windows, right? And close the door. And they're just sitting in there. And this is like that news block when the news is on at like 5 p.m. to maybe about 7 or something like that. And so for that 2-hour block that they're on live, the news anchors are telling their stories about who cut somebody's head off and all that other stuff. And then they would go back to the lady in the car, right? So they went to the lady in the car like every 20 minutes maybe. And every single time they got back to the lady in the car, she is in that car like one step from death. Like, yeah, guys, It's so hot in here. It's getting really uncomfortably hot. And we're all, in mind you, I'm like 11 to 12. My aunts and grandma and all of them are like, why doesn't she just leave the thermometer in the car and get out the car? And why is she stupid enough to leave the dog in there? So mind you, they sat in that car for like 40 minutes and eventually they had to get out. But it's interesting to see some of the things that news reporters will do to try to showcase to us the intensity of weather, whether it be the intensity of wind or, you know, how hot it is. It's like, we get it. I know there's a large collective of people in this country that aren't the brightest, but dang, you really don't have to sit in the car with the dog and the thermometer when the thermometer would have told you how hot the car was going to get, right? Wow. But I have a more serious piece that I want to jump into with all of this. Now, here's the issue I have with regard to when we're having these natural disasters. My biggest beef is, like, a lot of times when there's people's lives at stake, I can't stand the fact that we have so many politicians that like to play games, right? We have so many people who like to use these tragedies or what could be great tragedies as a moment for their own political come up, right? The craziest thing to me, one of the biggest conversations we saw, especially with Hurricane Helene, was FEMA this, FEMA that, FEMA ain't supporting the people, so on and so forth. This is what the people need. And so I'm watching all of these congressmen and senators talk about all this stuff that the government's not doing, when in reality, you find out these very people just voted against funding FEMA and then had the nerve to go on vacation, right? As they knew that the storm was coming. So, and mind you, these are people that live in the states and in the regions that are affected. Rick Scott, senator from Florida, voted against funding FEMA, right? Representative Anna Paulina Luna had the nerve. Actually, I want to read what she wrote because I said, man, you got some nerve here. Let me pull her up real quick, right? So she goes, where's it at? Where you at, Angela? Maybe I didn't write it down. I know I got it in here somewhere. I'll put it back in here anyway. I must have not wrote it down, but we're going to use it anyway. Hold on. Anna Paulina Luna. That's her name. All right, here we go. All right, where you at, woman? Here we go. We have and this was about, this is when Milton was still a Category 5, right? This is at the point when it was at 180 miles per hour, which is scary. We have a Category 5 headed right to Pinellas, and Kamala Harris is taking the time to attack Governor Ron DeSantis. Cut the crap. We need FEMA dollars freed up, all assets. Stop attacking Ron and do your job. Now, mind you, she's one of the people that voted against funding FEMA, right? As a matter of fact, I decided to just pull up an entire list because it ain't just her. It's a whole bunch of folks. So let me go down a list of people who voted against helping to fund FEMA. And I'm also tell you where they're from, because I'm only going to speak on the ones specifically that are from the areas that have been affected by either Helene or Milton, right? North Carolina, Dan Bishop, 8th District, Senator Todd Budd. All right, those are the two from North Carolina that voted against funding FEMA, which would have helped, you know, the people in regard to property loss and immediate funds and everything else like that. They'll sit here and do these theater games, watch their residents and constituents get terrorized by Mother Nature, and then sit there and act like they're not the reason why the money's not coming in fast enough. Now, coming out of South Carolina, Representative Jeff Duncan, South Carolina 3rd District. Representative Russell Fry, South Carolina 7th District. Representative Nancy Mace, South Carolina 1st District. Representative Ralph Norman, South Carolina 5th District. Representative William R. Timmons, the 4th, South Carolina 4th District. Senator Tim Scott, you know, when that finally got married because he needed to appease that base to make them a little bit more comfortable with not voting for him because they still weren't going to vote for him anyway, right? Georgia, Representative Richard McCormick, Georgia 6th District. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. We know who she is. She's also the same one who's out here trying to claim that the storms were created by the higher powers that be. Now they're trying to somehow associate cloud seeding with starting a Category 5 hurricane that fortunately came down to a 3 by the time it hit us, right? Representative Mike Collins, Georgia, 10th District. Representative Andrew S. Clyde, Georgia, 9th District. Let's get to Florida. Representative Daniel Webster, Florida, 11th District. Representative Michael Waltz, Florida, 6th District. Representative Bill Posey, Florida, 8th District. Representative Corey Mills, Florida, 7th District. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, that's what we just talked about, Florida, 13th District. Representative Laurel M. Lee, Florida, 15th District. Representative Matt Gaetz, we hear his name all the time, Florida, 11th District. Representative Byron Donalds, Florida, 1st District. Representative Kat Kamak, Florida, 3rd District. Representative Gus Bilarakis, Florida, 12th District. Representative Aaron Bean, Florida, 4th District. Senator Rick Scott, refused to vote. Okay, so he didn't actually vote on it. My bad. Let me clear that up. He refused to vote, which again, political theater. Either vote to fund the stuff or not. Don't play it. Anyway. Tennessee. All right. Representative Tim Burchett or Burkett, Tennessee 2nd District. Representative Andrew Ogles, Tennessee 5th District. Representative John W. Rose, Tennessee 6th District. Senator Marsha Blackburn, right? Senator Bill Haggerty. So, and the point that I'm making is there was $20 billion on the table for FEMA funding. And all of these people decided, aside from Rick Scott, who refused to vote, voted against funding FEMA and then went on vacation because Congress left the session, right? So then here, and they knew that the storms were coming, right? And mind you, that's not even everybody. I just named the ones in the regions nearby. When you start talking about the people from the additional states, everywhere else, because I mean, do we want to keep going? Because I can go and name the folks from the other states as well, right? I'm not gonna name them all. We'll be here all day. But let me see. James Baird of Indiana, Troy Balderson of Ohio, Jim Banks of Indiana, Aaron Bean of Florida, Andy Biggs of Florida. Oh, these are the ones we named. Skip them. Lauren Boebert, Colorado. She ain't even over there. She in a way, right? Mike Post, Illinois. Josh Basheen of Oklahoma. Aaron Burleson of Missouri. Michael Cloud of Texas. Eli Crane of Arizona. John Curtis of Utah. Warren Davidson of Ohio. Ron Estes of Kansas. Mike Ezel of Mississippi, Randy Feenstra of Iowa, Brad Finstan of Minnesota, Michelle Fishback of Minnesota, Russ Fulcher of Idaho, Tony Gonzalez of Texas, Bob Good of Virginia, Paul Gosar of Arizona, Morgan Griffith of Virginia. There's 3 additional pages. I'm going to stop. But the point that I'm making is these people all sat here and played political theater. You know there's a storm coming. We know every single time a hurricane comes, especially in the Gulf region, which is prone to always get hit every time. We know when it's hurricane season, from North Carolina down, those are the areas that tend to get it worse. And then from Florida, as far as wrapping up over to Texas, those are the areas that catch it the worst. You know it's hurricane season. So why would you guys sit here and pretty much put a stoppage on adding additional funds into the FEMA budget? And then you run to the media and try to paint this narrative of FEMA ran out of money, and then also bring in the conversation of $750 and say that's all they're giving the people, when in reality, the $750 is kind of like that immediate set of funds for people just to get food and everything else like that. And in reality, the rest of the money has to be allocated and distributed through the state and everybody else with the agencies that determine what happens with FEMA money. But they know that most people are not going to pay attention to those kind of details. And so they know they like to harp on the emotional raise that many people have just with the U.S. in general and just with politicians. And they know that people will eat it up. And so that's what they decided to do. They felt that they could get political gain by painting it as if the government does not care about the people, but specifically the people that they would like to blame, the lady that's running for president and Joe Biden. That's the idea that they would like to go. Paint them to be public enemy number one. They're the reason why everybody's struggling. When in reality, you didn't vote to push the money through, right? Political theater, sitting there playing games, right? And even DeSantis, right? Doing the whole press run where he's like, yeah, Kamala tried to call me and I refused to take her call. What is the end goal here? What are we aiming to do? Because I understand all of these people are political opponents, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the constituents of your state that you have pretty much taken an oath to take care of and make sure that they're good, why are you letting your ego get in the way of progress? Because you're still going to need the FEMA money anyway. You can sit here and be big and bad all you want. You're still going to eventually ask and get that call for that federal money to come in, because Florida as a state alone is not going to be able to take care of all of that. On top of the fact that we have these insurance companies that are kicking people off their policies, right? We have insurance companies leaving the state of Florida, leaving some of these regions that are hard hit because they're just not trying to pay this out anymore. Because again, with the effects of climate change and the fact that we've had 10 major storms in less than 5 years as far as all category 3 and above, including a category 5, these companies are like, we're not going to keep paying and to fix people's houses. Because listen, the very region that was just hit by Milton was just hit by Helene 13 days ago. So you have all of this taking place, but you want to go and do a press blitz and talk about, I'm not playing political games with Kamala. She's calling to say, listen, we got the money coming. Let me know what you need. But your ego is so inflated that, again, for some reason, these politicians keep thinking, if I can be big and badass all day, that I'm going to give it to them. That's what the people want. No, the people want to make sure that after their house gets destroyed, that there's a way for them to rebuild their lives. That while they're not able to work because maybe their place of employment has been destroyed or washed out by a flood, they have some kind of money coming and making sure that they can still pay their bills, whether that be medical bills, whether that be whatever else that they have going on, right? Those are the things that people are thinking about when their house gets destroyed, or even if their house doesn't get destroyed, but the town that they're in it is in a place where it can no longer function because there's no power for 3 weeks, right? These are the things that people are thinking about. There's no power for 3 weeks. The water's not running for 3 weeks. People probably need to leave town and find a hotel to stay in. But if they can't go to work, if there's no paychecks coming in, if it's a smaller company that can't afford to pay people and give people a paycheck during the downtime, where are the additional funds coming from? Like, those are things that people are worried about. But there's so many politicians, again, that love to play these little stupid games. Silly, silly games. Ridiculous. All right. I'm going to pause for 1 second, read some comments, and we're going to keep it going from there. Hot mess. Somebody said, I'm tired of the spreading of lies. We're going to spend a good minute talking about just a lot of the nonsense that's floating out there. Let's see. Somebody said, I'm 15 minutes late, but I'm here. Welcome. Yes, Byron Donalds voted no. Crazy. This happens with every major hurricane in Florida, yet they continue electing people who actively vote against their best interests. I really think one of the books I want to add to the book club is Dying of Whiteness, because that kind of really addresses a lot of what we're seeing, especially when it comes to a lot of people in white America and how they move and how they vote. Like, yeah, can I say I can't wait till this election's over? Like, man, I can't wait. Let's see here. Nikita said they knew peak season was coming. Geez, then politicize the plight of those who are suffering every single time. And you go out there, they'll do a photo op, and somehow they're gonna blame whoever. You know, it's some nonsense. Yeah, because and somebody said yes, the 750 was for emergency for food money. Like, that was the point. They took that 750 and ran with it, and a lot of them headlines painted it as 750 is all these people are going to be getting. Like, I think people need to realize when it comes to like FEMA and everything like that. If your house gets destroyed by a hurricane, first, before even FEMA jumps into the picture, FEMA is going to ask you, what is your insurance even giving you, right? You still need to make your claim with the insurance first, right? Insurance is going to do whatever they need to do, and then FEMA comes in on the back end, right? That's or it depends on the process, but a lot of times that's how it normally happens. But there's so many layers to all that. But for somebody who lives in a place that's never really hit by anything, you know, like they don't really have earthquakes or tornadoes or anything, a lot of folks would not really quite understand how that always works. So it's easy to put an article out there and say, oh, they only giving the people $750, and then paint the narrative that FEMA ran out of money. And then it will open up the other arguments. And they say, y'all ain't got money for this, but y'all got money to go blow up whatever, which, I ain't gonna lie, I'd be looking like, yeah, y'all ain't got money for this, but you can blow that up. But then you remember that within this budget that they put out, all of this stuff is line itemed anyway. All the money that they're spending over there to go terrorize and kill people across the water, which they shouldn't be doing, that's already line itemed in the budget. And most of the time, it's not actual physical money that's going there. They're just giving the people weapons that we don't even use anymore. That way that they can go ahead and order new weapons from all the defense tracking companies that they spend and give all this money to, that helps to boost the economy. That's the sad part about how all of this works. Literally, our economy grows as the U.S. is involved with a lot of the nonsense that happens over in the Middle East, right? You go and you give money to whatever country, whatever group to fight for whatever, but the money is really just weapons, and then we just put in a new order with Northrop Grumman or Raytheon or all these different companies, and these are multi-billion-dollar contracts, and it just keeps working in a cycle like this. Oh, make it make sense. When I tell you, sometimes I wish there was just a flush out of all of it sometimes, because it's ridiculous. The world does not have to be this difficult. It really doesn't, but that's where we are. All right. Somebody said Chris Christie, a Republican former governor of New Jersey, shook President Obama's hand after he sent aid to New Jersey after Sandy. Christie has paid the political price. I think what Christie would really mess him up, though, would have been Bridgegate. I think that really, that was more so the nail in the coffin for him. Because even though I think politics was still very draconian in 2012, 2012 right now looks like Sesame Street compared to the nonsense we're witnessing in 2024 with how our politics has gotten it, how tribal it's gotten it, just how everything to me is a set of extremities. There's no nuance right now in American politics. It's either this or that. And all this right here, don't worry about this or that. And then this or that hate each other so much. How many times do you keep seeing these random tweets talking about civil war and all this other stuff? And I'm like, what? Civil war for what? What y'all? Who's fighting who? because I know I got to go to work on Monday. So y'all wrap this up. Anyway, let's see. Mario said, just like how mainstream media wants Trump to secretly win for their ratings, the Republicans need tragedies in order to win. And we've been saying that on this channel for a good minute. Like, as much as the media may lash and drag Trump on some occasion, for them, it's a win if he's reelected because he's chaos. He brings headlines. Understand that most U.S. politics, as far as from a media standpoint, was boring until Obama got in it. Well, maybe we'll even say Clinton, because at least he played the saxophone, so he was a little bit. They thought he was cool. He kind of appealed to a younger demographic. So, and he had a few little scandals here and there. But as far as like, politics has always been very boring to cover for a lot of news things. So then, even with Obama coming in, he wasn't somebody that was scandalous, but the symbolism made his stories newsworthy, right? And then, people loved Michelle and everything like that. But then when Trump got in there, Trump came and shook that table in a way where this is somebody that is unconventional. He does not play by the rules. He's going to do whatever he wants. And we watched all these news networks have their ratings skyrocket. I mean, ratings they've never seen before. Covering, and this is one of the reasons why, if you haven't noticed, if you think back to the news cycle before 2015, politics was always in it. But if you notice when you watch the news now, if you watch any mainstream news outlets, probably 70% of what they're talking about is U.S. politics. We've lost some of the narratives in regard to what else is happening in the country, right? You're not hearing about some of the things that happen more so with regard to other social issues, with regard to sometimes what happens in entertainment, sometimes what happens with our national budget, what's happening internationally. Like it's been cut down, so more focus can go on whatever Trump is doing or whatever. That's why, like, every time he has a rally, they go live to show it, whatever he's talking about. Like, he is a cash cow, especially with ratings, because he's just so left field from what's normally there. Like, if you're like, think back to like when Bush #1 was running for office the first time, right? He came in right after Reagan, and you're talking about like those presidential debates. If you go back and watch the presidential debates of 1988, very stoic. We're going to talk about what we're going to do for the people. The economy isn't doing too bad, and I'm going to continue what we did with the Reagan administration. And like that, those were the moments, right? And now you fast forward to the debates when they're on TV, they're eating the dogs. Like, so it's just, it's a different day and age. And so these media companies, yeah, they're enjoying this. By the way, there's a great podcast called Slow Burn that currently is doing an episode, or they're doing a series of episodes talking about the rise of even like Fox News and how they've become what they've become. I've been listening to that on the way to work. And it's interesting how they even talk about how like the goal of the network wasn't even about giving the news. It was about kind of one, just tackling and getting the ratings, but also influencing the political kind of sway of where the country would go. And how even by Fox News moving in the way that they've moved, it's kind of influence other networks to shift into different directions in order to try to figure out what goes to what, because Fox News is the highest rated, or at one point was the highest rated news network. They bypassed CNN a few years after 9/11. So it's an interesting podcast if you want to check that out. All right, let's see here. What up, Carrie Singleton? What up? By the way, he shout out to him. He's definitely always been one of my biggest like supporters, especially when it comes to like media exposure. He used to have Carrie's Corner radio show way back when. That was actually my very first radio interview I ever did, specifically for my music. He also has Intrigue magazine I was talking about earlier that just did the spread. And now he has a TV show. So yeah, he's got a lot going out of New York. Nikita Clark said, and back to the insurance companies, the fees have gone up, and many couldn't afford those expensive plans in Florida. And many are underinsured. Oh, and then when you get into the conversation of people who own condos in Florida, we'll say that for another video. But yeah, man, let's see. Exactly. Said no one was prepared for the devastation that hit the Carolinas. Like it wasn't even on the radar for the Carolinas to go through anything. We just thought they were gonna get some rain like everybody else and keep it moving. Everybody, all thoughts and prayers were going to Florida and southern Georgia, and then surprised, here's Asheville and other parts of North Carolina. It's wild. Thank you, Black Queen. Let's see. Brown Skin Beauty said 1988. I wasn't even born yet. I was here, but I was brand new, fresh. I was born during the greatest year of hip hop. All right. Okay, I want to keep going, y'all, because I got a few things we still got to cover. But getting back to what I was saying, so even with the idea of like some of these politicians knowing that they can harp on the rage that a lot of people have, right? It got me to thinking, because even the other day, it was so funny. Perfect example. I saw there was a post that had said, okay, Biden administration just put out some regulations pretty much stating that all these major cities have 10 years to get these pipes fixed, because we know there's an issue with a lot of lead pipes in the country, so on and so forth. So I responded and I tweeted and I said, okay, watch. There's going to be a bunch of people in the comments section who are going to say, just in time for the election, or they should have been did this. And I'm like, they're going to tweet all of this, when in reality, this is just a continuation of policy that was already signed into place back in 2021, right? 2021, you had the lead pipe and paint action plan, right? December 2021. So I tweet that. Of course, I know somebody's gonna come back and argue back with me. Oh, that's something. Really, it should have been done during the Obama era. Okay, well, if you want to do that, January of 2011, Obama administration had the Reduction of Lead in Drinking Water Act. That's even before the Flint crisis. And it's not giving anybody a pass or praise to anything, but it's just highlighting the fact that a lot of the issues that we have structurally, different administrations have been doing things to try to remedy the situation, but a lot of times, I think because so many people don't really go back and look at what has been signed into place, there's always this idea of thinking that everything is about political points, right? And so when you're really looking at even the logistics of our piping, now this is not giving Obama a pass, because y'all know I still be side-eyeing him for that trip to Flint and the sip of water all the time. It gets under my spirit when I think about it. But, when you're putting in the logistics, right? Lead piping didn't even become outlawed until 1986. The U.S. had been installing lead pipes since the 1600s, right? And up until the late 1970s, lead pipes were technically the standard. And a lot of cities cut back and saved money by using lead piping because it was cheaper to do, especially in cities that didn't have the kind of revenue to bring in the big contractors that could build the state-of-the-art buildings. Everybody was cutting corners, right? So finally, 1986 happens, and they say, okay, no more lead pipes from here on out. And that's it. There was nothing else. It was kind of like, we'll just have the new construction and whatever else is there is there. Y'all just kind of live with it. We'll move around. Then we start discovering all the problems that come with lead and what lead poisoning can do to people and how lead poisoning, the effects are irreversible, right? So then finally you get Obama administration and they say, okay, well, from this point on, not only can you not use, lead pipes, but there has to be certain standards and regulations with what kind of pipes you're using to make sure we don't have another run-in with lead. You have that piece happen, right? And then Flint happens. Flint brings up a national conversation about all the flaws that exist within our infrastructure when it comes to piping and water. And we start to discover it's not just Flint. It's all over this country. And there's all these places that have been on the receiving end of really bad infrastructure and horrible deals, because a lot of these people up top who were in the mayoral cabinets and the governorships and everything else like that were signing really terrible deals back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? Horrible deals, but deals for their friends. They, like when we go back to the conversation of Flint never had to happen. Flint took place because the mayor and his folks or the people in charge decided they were going to pay their friends off by giving them this big giant contract to redo the water system when it wasn't needed in regard to where the water source was coming from. They changed the water source to the Flint River and went from there. Like some of this stuff never even had to really take place, right? So then you kind of have that happen. But getting back, I'm saying all that to say a lot of this is ongoing. And because of that, the U.S. has 9.3 million pipes that need to be replaced. And this is not going to be something that's going to be done overnight. However, that policy that I was kind of referencing, the idea was, okay, we know it can't be done overnight, but we also can't take 30 years to do it. So listen, 10 years, make it happen. So it was interesting reading the commentary I was saying, because everybody was like, wow, that's his political point. I was like, sometimes we need some nuance. I'm not saying that we need to roll out the red carpet and celebrate and start dancing to Can You Feel a Brand New Day? But damn, like when you're starting to see that there's some elements of progress being made, why stand in the way and get mad at it? Because if we're going to be honest, since 1986, how many administrations have been in office? 86 was Reagan, and then 88 to 92 was Bush, and then 92 to 99 was Clinton, And then 2001 was Clinton, 2001 and 2009 was, but we had 4 different administrations that pretty much didn't do anything about it, right? And then you have the Obama administration do what they do. We have the next administration come in and decide to gut the EPA. They go back to deregulation. They go back to saying, well, it's not really a big deal. And a few lives ago, we went down the list of all the things, or some of the things specific to public health, that were deregulated, all in the name of cash flow, all in the name of making people's friends rich, right? So when we're talking about the nonsense that takes place, even when there is policy that's, there to remedy some of these issues, then you got to deal with some of these judges that come in and order a stay and say, no, this is unconstitutional, we can't do this, or just all these different random things in a way. Like even we just saw with the student loan forgiveness, right? That's been a seesaw, a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We just saw the federal judge say, you know what? Go ahead and go for it. Y'all can do it. Give the people their 10,000, and those that had the Pell Grants, give them their 20. And in the same day, what happened? That judge out of Missouri said, nope. We're not doing that. And now here we go back to the stagnant space we're in. American politics is a headache, man. A headache. And sadly, because many of us are very unhappy with the way that things are, it's really hard to have any kind of element of hope sometimes, right? Because hope is symbolic. People want something tangible. People want to see action take place, and they want to see it not in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They want to see it in their lifetime, right? Because the sad part is bad policy that's been implemented over the last 60, 70 years, it seems like it's whacking us all right now within this same 10-year period. So people are like, well, I want this same 10-year remedy and I want to fix now, right? It's kind of like where we're at. I'm going to pause and read a few more comments, and then I want to get to this Pastor Henderson guy, because I'm tired of some of these church folks doing the things that they do. And this is coming from somebody who grew up in the church. So don't y'all come on here trying to preach to me, because I can probably quote the Bible better than a lot of y'all. Anyway, let us see here. Get Up said, no, I can remember George W. was getting dragged every chance he got in the news. I agree. He definitely got cooked. But I think the thing about George Bush is because George, as much as we live in such a time where George Bush almost don't even sound that bad no more. And then you got to go back and remember what it was like when he was in charge. Because he never really came off as a president that was spiteful or irrational or kind of one-dimensional with how he just moves to see this or that. I think because of that, you never always saw, if he had a vile side, it was in the policy. He wasn't in the cameras running his mouth all day, right? The vile stuff was in the policy that was signed. The vile things were the people that he put in his cabinet, right? That's what you saw. So it wasn't so out front in your face. And I think with Bush, he was the butt of all jokes because he didn't really come off very intelligent. He kind of struggled to read that teleprompter back in the day. But I see like Bush is even a contrast of Trump in regard to how they present themselves in the media and how they present themselves to constituents. And even when they're doing official government duties, I see a huge contrast with how they move. Let's see. Speaking of music, Calvin, your new albums are really, really good. I need to re-listen on Apple Music. Thank you. I told y'all they're good. Like, I put my foot in them albums, right? Now, every now and then, there's always that one random person that got to come in here and kill your joy. But I didn't like any of it. All right. You honestly just didn't like me, but that's okay. But it's fine. Brianna, you hit it right there. And you have to have flood insurance in addition to hurricane insurance. Hurricane insurance often doesn't include flooding. Speak on it. And see, that's one of the things that I feel really bad for the people in Asheville, because a lot of those people don't have either, right? Probably don't have hurricane insurance and probably don't have flood insurance. And it's so wild how fickle insurance can be anyway with how they move. They will find every technicality and loophole to find a reason to not give you your money. Ridiculous. All right. Let's see. Somebody said they're moving the goalpost. Okay, Maverick, Lex Cruz. My unfinished book, Strong Towns on Infrastructure and Financially Insolvency. Listen, when you finish that book, let us know, please. We can definitely talk about some of that. Let's see. Somebody said, you don't understand that Congress has the power. And the problem with Congress right now is we got a gridlock Congress that don't want to get nothing done, because it's not even about the people at this point. It's about giving it to the other side. And that's kind of why we've been in gridlock for so many years. I feel like since 2010, not a whole lot has been done as far as Congress. Like if we're talking about this current class in Congress and the last two, I think the last three Congress sessions have been the three most like unproductive sessions of Congress we've had in a good while, because you just got too many people in there now that really they're not interested in making life better for anybody. Some of this is a game to them. Some of this is I don't even know what to call it. A lot of people are lining their pockets because, you know, you get in the Congress, all kind of deals and stuff under the table come and you start making some real money. But for a lot of these people, they're unserious. They got in there and this is a game to them. And they waste our time and our tax dollars all the time doing shenanigans, right? TFF for Life 84 said politics news coverage is boring until 45. Why do you think they always play his sound clips and really do no one else? That's really what it is, right? Because again, he knows how to work. He comes from television, right? He knows branding. Like he get on my nerves, but I also understand in some elements he knows what he's doing. I can almost give him that, right? He knows how to work TV. He knows he just knows what he can do in front of a camera. And at this point, because he goes unchecked, nobody really checks him and he doesn't care because he's somebody to me that lacks empathy and doesn't really have any self-awareness. That's ratings gold. You never know what he's going to say. Remember when the debate was announced, the initial debate when Joe was still in it. And some of y'all got mad at me and was chewing me out in the comments because I said, they don't need a debate because it's not going to look good for Joe. I said, Joe is going to come out there a little delayed and it's going to be a bullying session. Trump is going to tear that man a new one. And it doesn't matter if Trump is telling the truth or lying, because he'll have a better delivery and he's quicker on his feet than Joe Biden is at the moment. It's going to look like bullying. And everybody started whacking me in the comments. Joe's an upstanding man. I'm like, I hear all of that. But when you're talking optics on TV, listen, even when they came out, when Joe came out to the thing, I was like, oh my God, you coming? I was like, Joe, we trying to win, man. When Joe walked out, even my friend today called me right away, like, I don't know how this is about to go. I said, I don't know either. We gonna see. And then we saw how that debate went. Even though, as far as the information that was put out there, whatever Joe would have been presenting, even things that were factual, and even things that had substance, the message was lost because the delivery wasn't there, right? Trump is somebody who just has that at the moment. Now you're starting to see him be a little bit more delayed and a little cuckoo sounding and very unhinged, because now you're really just seeing how bad it's been, because now you got him going with somebody that's half the age, well, maybe not half his age, but 15, 20 years younger. So you're kind of seeing the contrast, but it's a lot. Sometimes I'm like, are we in like the Twilight Zone and we're all going to wake up one day and then it'll be like all of this was a joke and everybody was just playing? Because I hope so. Like, goodness. Okay, guys, I got to move on. I love the comments, but y'all know we'll be here for 3 hours if I ain't careful. Deanna Penna. Okay, what up? Hey, Calvin, I just turned 61 in September. Happy birthday. I'm on disability. I about fell out when I got my letter from the Department of Education saying my loans were forgiven. Congratulations on that, by the way. Like, if you guys follow my podcast, I told you guys Ava from the center also got hers forgiven. I was really happy for her because, yeah, amen to that. Okay. Can we talk about Pastor Keion? I think last name Henderson. So I want to play a quick clip. I just want us to, and my church folks, listen. I came out of the church, so I feel like I can say what I want to say. All right. I'm going to just say how I feel without being as disrespectful. This is not to attack anybody's specific religion or what they believe. I just want to have a conversation about how people are moving. Okay. So let me go. There's 2 clips I'm going to play, but I'm going to play the first one and talk about it and then go to the other one and talk about that as well. Okay. Here we go.
A person is in need. Y'all go to running and dropping money. But let me tell you something. The poor will be with you always. And there is no blessing connected to blessing the poor other than getting back what you gave to them, but no multiplication. Multiplication is segregated for tithes and offering. When you give to the poor, the only thing you do is help them, but you don't help yourself. So when you give $1 to somebody on the street talking about I did my job, God like, thank you, but it ain't gonna help you.
Okay, hold on. I need to sip on that one real quick. Make sure I guide my words carefully. Okay, so what I was trying to gather with a really, really, really open ear, right? It sounded like the argument he was attempting to make was that when you invest in the church, you get it back tenfold. And that tenfold would be like spiritual support and resources that the church would give. Because there are some churches that actually do help the community. I know a lot of times the narrative is that church is just the scam and they taking everybody's money. But there are churches that actually do support the community. In the past, the church has been the place for a lot of political activism way back when. And there are a lot of churches who, like I said, they have food banks, they have backpack drives. I will always shout out like Community of Hope A&E out in Suitland, Maryland, right? They do HIV testing, they do all these different things specifically in the community. So there are churches that do that. Now, with that being said, with him saying this whole conversation in tenfold and the idea of where you put your money, I just found it funny that, of all the things to go after as to why you feel some kind of way about what people do with their money, you would be bothered about them giving it to the poor. Like, I thought if you're going to make that argument, you're going to say, sometimes people splurge on things and maybe some of that could go to the church. Now, this is for people who are in church, but and the point that I would make, like, for example, for myself, I waste a lot of money on streaming services, right? Every TV streaming service I got, and I will be watching half of them. I got Netflix, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Apple TV. What did I already say? Hulu. I'm skipping whatever. All of them. I got them. Plus YouTube TV, right? Prime Video. I graduated from Zeus. I ain't gonna lie. I was watching the trash TV for a minute, and I was like, okay, this is a lot. I finally canceled that one. But like, I waste a lot of time with all the streaming services, and I don't even watch half of them. Oh, Disney Plus too. Well, my friend Tanae got that one. I'm just using her password. But yeah, like, I waste a lot of time on the streaming devices. I don't even watch that much TV, to be honest. So the argument, if you wanted to make one, could have been, hey, with all that TV you're not watching, maybe that is something you could invest or put in the church if that's something you want to do, right? But the thing that I find really, really interesting is, like, one, the issue in the smoke should not be with giving to the poor. I feel like that specifically would be what the church is for. The argument should have been more so the fact that it's a shame that we live in a country that's so wealthy, but yet we still have such a large population of people who are struggling. Like, we now are a country with over 600,000 people who are unhoused, right? And so don't be mad at people for having a heart to want to give. And the other thing is, a lot of times people are not giving to the poor and expecting something in return. That makes no sense. That sounds like I give somebody $2 on the street. Then when I see them in 3 months, I'm chasing them down like, wait, I gave you $2 2 months ago. What you still doing out here? Like, can you be for real? And then the idea of correlating this to the conversation of tithes and offering. Like, so in the church, they always talk about giving 10% of your check to the church. And not even that, but your first 10%. Like, as soon as you get paid, the first dollar you spend, 10% of that's going to the church. Nobody is giving 10% of their income to the poor. It's out of the working and middle class. Nobody's doing that. So I don't understand why this is the argument, but the idea of vilifying and painting the idea of wanting to help and support somebody that might be in need, and then you think people are doing it because they want something in return. Most of the time, I'll speak for myself because I live right smack in the middle of the city. So you see all kinds of people. There's always moments where I give a dollar here or there. Somebody might stop me on the train and, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. And sometimes, they've advanced with the technology. They even got Cash App now, right? I Cash App you $5. I'm not doing it looking for anything in return, right? I'm not going to give $1 to somebody thinking it's going to bless me in the end. And I just do it because somebody's in need if I choose to do it. So the idea of trying to paint that as being foolish and trying to correlate it with what the church does, I have an issue with that. And I'm going to tell you why, right? So I think back to, actually, before I say that, I'm going to say this to just shake it a bit more. There's a lot of churches that don't do anything for their congregations to begin with, let alone the communities that they reside in. And so it makes me think back to, and I don't normally like doing like individual stories with these larger conversations because everybody's experience is different. But I think back to when my dad was in the ICU, when he was still living, right? I get the call, hey, he got a few weeks to live, get here. I fly to Washington, I'm boohooing on the plane thinking he's about to die. Get there, ICU, he starts to bounce back. He's almost, I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but go to my podcast and listen to the Pop's unexpected transition story to hear the whole thing. But I'm gonna really sum this up. He's in the hospital. He's supposed to go home that day. Like, he's bounced back all as well. One of the nurses does this really, really, really stupid thing that we told her not to do, and then it made things worse, and it made his heart go into like a hypertensive beat where it's just like his heart was beating at like 160 beats a minute. So they had to put him in like a coma. And then they were going to try to put a trach on him, but my mom was like, no, because normally when you put that trach on, sometimes it's a wrap. So anyway, yeah. So long story short, now they think he's about to die. They're bringing in the chaplain, the lady's coming in with the spiritual book to try to, and all that. So my mom was like, call the pastor. This is the pastor of the church that we went to at the time, right? And so I called the pastor, like, hey, I'm just letting you know, it's looking like he's probably not going to make it through the night. You might want to get here. And mind you, the pastor at the time only lived like not even 10, 15 minutes from where the hospital was. And he tells me, well, I'm probably not going to be able to go there or become, because he was talking about some church event. Sometimes with a lot of these churches, they do things together, and, they go to support another pastor. So all the other pastors are sitting on the pulpits. They're not going to be doing nothing. They're just there for support. One of those events. So he said something about why he couldn't come. I said, okay. Well, Mom, he ain't going to be there. My mama called him. I don't know what she said, but he was there in 10 minutes. But then when he gets there, right now, mind you, the church we went to at the time was a much smaller church. Like I didn't really grow up in this church because my parents joined it when I was 17. So I wasn't really connected to this church like that anyway. But this is one of them smaller churches with like 30, 40 members where everybody got to do something, right? That's how I ended up being a choir director. I was an usher, had to do a whole lot. But my parents at the time were two of the most like loyal members, right? Because it was a smaller church. When you're talking about helping to pay bills and stuff, a lot of times these churches will depend on the people who have the funds to keep things going. So I'm sitting here looking at, my two parents who have given their all to this church. Preacher man gets there. He does this 30-second prayer. I don't even know what the prayer was so quick. I didn't even get time to close my eyes yet to get into the prayer. He was done and he was out. I'm like, okay. All right. Long story short, my mother ended up doing my mama did the prayer, and I don't know what was in that prayer, but my daddy bounced back and lived for 6 more months. But I just always remember how much that pastor was in a rush to leave, to get back to some service where he wasn't even a part of it. He was just going to be sitting there. And so I know that that's the experience for a lot of people who give their all into some of these churches and all their time and devotion. And then in that one moment where my mama wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for anything. She just said, can you come and do a prayer? And you come and do a half prayer. Like stuff like that sits with people. And so that's why it's like the idea of trying to tear down a congregation that's giving to the people that really are tangibly in need because you think that money should be going to build whatever you're working towards, right? That makes no sense to me, especially when in reality, when you're talking about a lot of these churches, most of these churches are churches where half the congregation is poor to begin with. The congregation already needs help. And so it's kind of like interesting, but I ain't done. I want to go to the other clip that he has. All right.
I say this with all due respect.
Hold on. Wait, what I say? They always say all respect, all due respect, and be saying the most disrespectful stuff. Anyway, here we go.
I say this with all due respect. Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the world. In fact, they say it is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Have you ever wondered how in the world can Haiti share an island with the Dominican Republic? And you can go to the DR and turn up and go 70 miles in one direction and see a place where people are still dying from E. coli. Well, I'll tell you why. Because in the 1700s, when the African slaves came to the island of Haiti, and they introduced an idea called voodoo. And so we look at Haiti and we ask, why is it one of the poorest countries in the world? It is not because it is full of ignorant black people. They are as smart and as intelligent as you are, but there is a spirit.
All right, I'm going to stop there because I ain't trying to feed into that. Okay. So here's the other issue I have, right? I don't like when folks try to all of a sudden pretend to be super intellectual, but then still feed you some BS. Oh, you want to talk about getting under my skin? How can you even bring up the conversation of Haiti and the problems that Haiti has had without even talking about the policy that has affected Haiti for hundreds of years? And so we've talked about this a few times, so I'm not going to run it all the way down. But with Haiti, we already know the conversation about France and all the stuff that France did and how Haiti had to pay France like all these billions in reparations and so on and so forth, right? But in addition to that, we also know that the U.S. played a major role into what happened with Haiti. All right, let me go down the list of some of the things here. I'm not going to read it all, but I just want to put some things into perspective because this is a very foolish approach with this conversation he's having, because this to me is not a spiritual conversation at all. All right. United States took control of Haiti's bank in 1914 when U.S. Marines stole $500,000. And by the way, $500,000 in 1914 would equate to $15.7 million in modern times. And mind you, at this point, Haiti is already a poor country because of the U.S. and the world embargoes against it after the revolution. So at this point, Haiti's already lost their GDP. We know at one point they were the second richest country in the world because of the sugarcane. Here comes the revolution. France does the nonsense that they do. And then you have all these different countries coming in and doing the bits that they do. And then here comes the US, because, you know, we always got to get us a piece too. All right. So we already said 1914, they also steal Haiti's gold reserves and deposit it into New York City. This gave the U.S. control of the bank. And what makes it even interesting is the bank that it was placed in, was that U.S. Bank? It'll come to me later. I'll clarify that later down the line. 1915, the U.S. invaded Haiti to protect American business interests and prevent a possible German invasion, because Germany wanted a piece of it too. The U.S. gained complete control over Haiti's finances and the right to intervene in Haiti whenever the U.S. government deemed necessary. 1922, National City Bank, that's the bank, not U.S. Bank, I'm sorry. National City Bank acquired the Bank of the National Republic of Haiti and moved its headquarters to New York City. New York is way up north, but they're dealing with what's happening over in Haiti. And I bet you half the people at that bank couldn't even speak French, but they dealing with Haiti, right? 1947, Haiti paid its final remittance to the National City Bank. The U.S. occupation of Haiti lasted until 1934, but the U.S. continued to control Haiti's public finances until 1947. During this time, the U.S. siphoned away around 40% of Haiti's national income service. I'm sorry, let me slow down. During this time, the U.S. siphoned away around 40% of Haiti's national income to service debt repayments to the U.S. and France. So I said all that to say, now that's just the U.S. I didn't even get to the BS France did. You can't sit here and literally watch a country living in the residuals of terrible policy, and I'd even say like predatory policy of the United States and France, and then sit here and claim that, well, the reason they got the problems they got is because of that voodoo that they got over there, right? The idea of trying to vilify anybody who does not share the same religious beliefs or the same religious practices as you, to me, that is some nonsense. And it also paints the idea that good behavior is what will paint prosperity. And to that argument, that makes no sense to me, because if that's the case, why is it that so many good people are poor? Why is it that so many people who are the most faithful, who spend their entire life in the church, some of these people are some of the poorest in the country? When we're talking about, honestly, people that are just, there's nothing bad you can say about them. They did everything right in life. And unfortunately, financially, they just never had it. So the idea of trying to paint an entire country that is destitute and say it's the fault of their religious practices, well, then where does that leave the United States? Because we ain't really, as a country, we ain't the greatest people, right? There are tons of countries that can literally just bring us up and talk about what it is we did to them. I don't like to say we, because most of us have nothing to do with the nonsense that's happening, but our tax dollars go to it, right? And even when you see like people that will put in vile people into positions of power and all those different kind of things, if that's the case, if prosperity and well-being and health and all the things that make life great came solely because all of us were good people, then there will be a lot more people on this planet who are super rich, and a lot of the really, really terrible people that seem to have everything wouldn't have a damn thing. How is Elon Musk rich if that's the case, right? So I need people to like, kind of like be for real. And it just takes me back to the idea of, again, people will sit here and try to paint narratives without really dissecting the full context of everything. He just bypassed all of Haiti's history to put his personal opinion about what he think happened. And then, you know, try to paint, well, yeah, because in the 1700s, that's what happened. So then the question becomes, okay, well, what about people who were brought over here as U.S. slaves? What are you going to say that they did to deserve slavery? Right? If somebody's sexually assaulted, what did they do to deserve that? Right? If somebody's loved one or their spouse dies from some crazy disease or something, what did that person do wrong? Because it's the idea of painting that the misery that comes to us is because of choices that we made when in reality, we're all just given a deck of cards, right? And you don't know what kind of card you're going to pull. Each day you're pulling a card. When you wake up in the morning, you are pulling a card. And on that card, it might say you're going to go and stop at the coffee shop on the way to work, go to work, have a good day, come home, see your wife, see your kids, watch whatever show it was a good day. That next card for the next day, it might say you were in traffic really, really long. Your boss got mad at you and wrote you up and some other stuff. This day wasn't that great. That next card, each card is something different. And one of those cards, you might pull it and say, boom, head-on collision on the way to work today. Now you're paralyzed. Like, it has nothing to do with the idea of trying to paint people as deserving of their misery based on whatever spiritual practices they have. To me, that's some nonsense. And I think you're leading your congregation into some nonsense. And this is why I think people have to be careful, especially when they start trying to correlate history with spiritual conversations. It even makes me think back to like, even when I was really pissed with Kanye when he did the whole slavery was a choice conversation, and his argument was all about the mindset of, you know, you could have got out of this if you really wanted to. And then he did that tour, had the nerve to go to the campus of Howard University and double down some more and be like, and next time, let's not just stand and wait for the Nets. I'm like, that's... And the issue that I had with that is there's this narrative that people who were enslaved just sat and took it for hundreds of years. By the way, shout out to Tarian Reloaded. He has a great series on his channel talking about They Fought Back that goes into a lot of the rebellions of those who were enslaved within the U.S. So definitely check out his channel with that series. It's called They Fought Back. He has tons of episodes of all these, like talking about Ocoee, Florida, all these different places, people who rebelled. But again, if you're going to have that conversation about the idea of slavery being a choice, then you really need to look at the full logistics. Can we backtrack for 1 second, right? If I'm somebody who's enslaved, I don't know, I'm enslaved in Louisiana, right? And it's okay, I want to break free. Because a lot of times, especially people looking from a lens of 2024, everybody always looks at the past through a lens of the current state that they're in. You look at the past through a lens of whatever privileges you've been afforded in these modern times, and then you try to make decisions based on what you think people should have been doing way back then. The only difference is they don't have the luxury that you have. Like, so thinking back to like all those days in K through 12 when we had to watch the movies during Black History Month, and we'd be like, oh, they wouldn't have been telling me, you know, I couldn't use that water fountain. I would have been drinking out of that. They wouldn't have been telling me I couldn't go to that school. I would have walked up in there. Like, we do that because we live in this space we live in now. It's not the greatest space, but growing up in a space where there have been laws, even though they're getting stripped away, that have been created to protect your rights. Yeah, of course, that's how you see it. But anyway, getting to my point. So if I'm somebody who was enslaved in Louisiana, and I'm using Louisiana because I've been tracing my family lineage, and it turns out that my family lineage traces back to, it's called the Bruin Plantation in that area. Still doing some more research. But anyway, if I'm enslaved in Louisiana, I want to break free, right? I'm over this crap. I break out, done, out of here. First thing I have to consider is the fact that if I escape, it's likely that my family will pay the price if I left all of them, right? That's one thing to think about. Now, here comes the second thing. Now I need to escape. Where am I going? I got to get north, right? But getting north, I don't even know which way to go. I'm going to have to follow the North Star. Now I'm trying to go here. And as I'm going into all of these different states and territories have all kind of slave laws, all kind of laws for if we capture somebody who has escaped, they can be brought back to Louisiana, or they can be enslaved in that state. I would suggest you guys check out the Lemons versus US case. We've talked about that. I don't know what video it is, but it's the video about the guy that tried to he was going to move to Texas, but they went to New York first because I guess New York would be where they would go to get on the boat to get to Texas. Real backwards. They went from Virginia to New York to go to Texas. Long story short, New York had a law that pretty much said if you brought your enslaved people to New York and you were in that town for a certain amount of times, then that person was no longer enslaved. And so he got mad because New York was like, nope, you can't take them down anymore. You were here too long. And then he sued. You know, they had offered to give him the value of each person that was enslaved. He said, no, I want my people. So it went to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court was like, well, actually, you ain't getting nothing. And then right shortly after that, the Civil War started. So the case never really got handled. But anyway, I say all that to say, all of these states have different policies, different laws, right? And there's all these different systems. So even if you were to escape and get to wherever you go, you're in an entire country that's endorsing a system. So even states that were no longer slave states, a lot of them did not always have friendly treaties in regards with people who were enslaved. They will still send you back. There's like all these different things to consider and think about. And then the idea of understanding that, like, looking at this from, a lens of 2024, it always paints the picture of, now that you see what the possible solutions could have been or how things could have worked, we always think we can outsmart the previous generations. When in reality, the nonsense that them people had to deal with is the only reason that a lot of us are still here, right? Because there's so many that didn't make it. So to kind of step and talk down on the experience of those who had to deal with that from a privileged lens, some nerve. I'm gonna stop because I'll get on my soapbox and we'll never get to my actual topics, but I'm over it. Let me read my comments real quick. Let's see. It pissed me off. Trying to be all super revolutionary and then look who you done married twice. What you done married into, please. All right. Okay. Oh, I gotta go way up. I forgot we got a whole lot here. Let's see here. Brown Skin Beauty said, "Yep, my old hometown still has lead pipes today that keep tearing up the city." Like, and the problem too, is with those lead pipes, it also contaminates the water source, right? That's the other issue. And when it comes to all these lead pipes, I mean, when you're talking about some of these buildings that are landmarks and everything, like literally going and tackling 9.3 million pipes, this is literally, you're going house to house in some of these cities. And when you're thinking of how many pipes are in your house, if you got a 3 or 4 bedroom house and 2 bathrooms, you got your set of pipes for both bathrooms, you have your set of pipes for the kitchen, you have your set of pipes for the different lines that would be under the house. You have then that set of pipes that connects to the larger set of pipes that would connect to all of the main street. Like, there's so many things to think about. So even if like you got all your pipes and stuff replaced, but your neighbor hasn't got theirs replaced, right? And then everything is still going to the same water source, which eventually ends back up in the same watershed at some point. The stuff is still cycling around. It's a mess. All right. Somebody said, props to President Carter. He may pass soon. He was looking like he was on that last leg. And in that clip I saw where they were pushing him in the chair, I was like, listen, God willing, if I make it to that age to be 100, if I'm not all the way in a presentable way where I look like I'm all right, please don't have me on camera. If I'm, I don't know if we'll be on this YouTube channel by then, but in that case, I'm telling y'all now, if I'm still on YouTube at 100 and my mind went bad and everything else, whoever's taking care of me, make sure they don't have me on here looking crazy, okay? What up, Nan Nelson? Let's see. Somebody said, oh, those trashy condos. Yeah, I've seen what's happening with the market down there in Florida with all those condos people are trying to get rid of or not purchase anymore. Let's see. R. Collins said, what would Jesus say? Nicole Allwood said, congratulations, my family's loans have been forgiven. Praise the Lord, and I'm waiting for mine to be forgiven in Jesus' name, if it's God's will. Like, I celebrate anybody who gets their loans forgiven, because the idea of furthering your education to build a better life should not cost you your entire livelihood. That's a horrible way to live, right? All right. Andre Asante said he was loud and engaging, and that's all credibility some people need. And this is about the pastor. And I noticed too, you see that too, every time he was saying all that kind of nonsense, and the people in the congregation, yeah, speak on it. I'm like, all right, okay, that's how y'all want to move. Lord, I don't, that's all I can say. You're gonna get mad. You're gonna get mad because I gave $1 to the man on the corner. How does that sound? I gave $1 to the guy on the corner. You made a whole sermon about it, and somehow correlated it to me thinking that was going to bless my life. When in reality, I should gave that to the church. Okay, all right. Somebody said, not Zeus. Calvin, you was watching Jocelyn and them? I certainly was. I was watching that Jocelyn show. That show was such trash. I watched the first 2 seasons. I don't watch all that no more. But it was some trashy TV to watch. But yeah. Let me see. Brianna said, I must have missed something. Why are we canceling Disney Plus and Hulu? Oh, I was just talking about that. I waste a lot of money having all these streaming platforms, and I don't even use half of them, right? And a lot of times it'd be because so I just discovered that remember I did the music talk episode about the Milli Vanilli documentary, and I was talking about how we discovered that there's going to be a movie that they have. I just discovered the movie's been out. I don't know what happened with the promo rollout or whatever, but anyway, you can find it, I think, on Amazon Prime, and I want to say Apple TV. So long story short, in moments like that, I'll not have Amazon or Apple TV, and then I'll purchase it just to watch the movie, and then forget that I paid for the subscription, and then money to just be coming out for 3-4 months, right? That's normally what ends up happening. But yeah, that's what we were talking about. Don Smart, and I agree with this too. Most people who don't have are the main ones giving. That's normally what it is. When you're doing the research, the most charitable people are the ones that tend to not be super wealthy. And I think it's because people have an empathy and an understanding of what it's like to not always have everything. Think about that person in your life who never has really had much, but they will give you their last every single time, right? There's some people who are just kind-hearted, where that's their nature. I always think of my Aunt Queen. I remember one time we she used to live in Maryland, and sometimes I would stay at her house when I was at Howard. Like if me and my roommate weren't really feeling each other that day, I go stay at my Aunt Queen's house. One day it's like snowing outside, right? It wasn't Snowmageddon, but it was cold, snow. We stopped at the Popeyes on Georgia, right? And the diner portion was closed, but the drive-thru was still open. So as we're going, there's this couple. They're like a younger couple, guy, girl, maybe like 20 years old. They were really young. And they're standing outside and ordering through the drive-thru. My Aunt Queen's like, they are not about to stand out there. Y'all come on in this car and sit in here with me and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, right? And yeah, she let this couple just sit in the car with us until they got their food. And then I thought she was gonna tell them, all right, and I thought they're gonna get out once they got the food. Oh no, then she's like, well, where do y'all live at? Then they said where they lived at. And fortunately, it wasn't too far. Because listen, if they would have said like, we live in Waldorf, which is real far from DC, she would have took them to Waldorf. Like that's just the kind of person she is. So there's like, there's people who are kind-hearted, who just are giving and have empathy, right? So I would never want to tarnish the spirit of those kind of people, all because my ego made me write some sermon that don't make no sense, and I need everybody to size me up. Like, come on. Anyway. And then going back to that pastor you know what? I'm gonna let it go. I ain't gonna do it because I ain't gonna do it. But some of these pastors are latching onto a lot of anti-black talking points. Just want y'all to notice that. Sasha Bell, why is Haiti dragged into everything, Lord? I'm saying you got to deal with J.D. Vance with his nonsense, and Trump is talking about they eating the dogs. Amber Rose is co-signing it. You got all this stuff happening. Then here you come, right? And I can guarantee you there's people in that congregation that were Haitian or have family that lives back in Haiti. Like, folks don't even read the room. Like, what are you talking about? And if you care so much, maybe your church need to open up something to go and support the people down there rather than talking about why they're in their misery and you judge them from the outside. Talk about, well, we good over here. Y'all got what y'all got because of how y'all move. You need to get like us. He'd probably tell them to donate to his church too. Like, Lord, in order for us to pray for y'all, you better donate. Anyway. Hey, baby said, well, I thought he was going in a whole nother direction with that. Yeah, because then it goes back to like, so then like Hurricane Katrina or like Hurricane Rita or Andrew and all these hurricanes or earthquakes or tornadoes or whatever that hits all these different random people. Is your argument going to also be that every time something terrible happens, it's because that collective of people deserved it because there's something that they did wrong, right? So, when the newborn baby dies during a storm surge, somehow you're tying spirituality to whatever happened, and that's why the baby had to go. Like, you're not making any sense. You're not. Just out here saying anything. Somebody say, Calvin, you need to run for something. I want to live long. I don't want the stress of being in charge of anything politically in this country because it's something weird that, like, even today I was talking to a good friend who's actually a subscriber who lost their father in summer, and it's like I've just seen so many people who've lost their father in the last few months who are all kind of in my age range or a little bit younger, and I keep seeing all these older Black men who are dying in their 50s and 60s, right? And I personally, I feel, I just feel like life has worn down some people, right? And, sometimes people get cancer or whatever, but sometimes some of these people's parents have died just of like natural causes at really young ages. I don't want the stress of ever being in that kind of predicament to try to run things. Because again, politics is draconian in this country. And then like, I don't know, if I were ever going to do anything in politics, I'd run for like a school board, right? I'd do something real small, real local. I just like doing the kind of work I do that like directly is connected to whatever community I'm in. I like that approach. I just think U.S. politics has gotten so corrupted and there's so much money in it where candidates get outbought and outspent. And the really, really great candidates that could really go in there and really do a lot of great things, we never even get to see them because they never make it to the main stage, if we're being honest, right? And Who knows? I'm saying this now, maybe 10, 20 years after after I make my 15th album and do my 20th movie or whatever, then I'm like, all right, I'm ready to change the world. Who knows? But I don't see it right now, but who knows? I also used to say I would never do music because I never thought I had the best voice. And here we are 4 albums later, right? So anyway, let's see. And you never know. I even think back to like getting rejected from USC Film School. And then guess where we shot pull over so I can hit you? USC Film School, right? They didn't let me in, but guess who used your sound stage? But yeah, anyway. Star Cherry, I totally agree with that. Survival is an underrated form of resistance. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Somebody said life is lifing too much. I agree. It's doing a whole lot. Somebody said you're a community leader, Calvin. That's serving the people and it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. I agree as well. Okay, I want to keep going. All right. I really did not want to talk about this lady because I really don't even like saying her name on the channel. But dang it, we get into a place where it's getting too far here. I need people to really start putting on their thinking caps, like Sister Patterson. What's not clicking? Jaguar Wright. Now, here's the issue I have. One, people are exploiting what it is she's sharing. She has clearly been through something that affects the way that she moves. It affects the way she interprets things. Yes, she was in the music industry. Yes, she technically knows Jay-Z. Yes, she was at some industry parties back in 2002 and 2003. Yes, she has been in some spaces. The challenge and the issue I have is clearly, again, there are things happening here with her. And people know that, but they're exploiting it because they want views. And they keep platforming her in all these different places. And for the last 3 years, she has been on the podcast circuit and the social media circuit, putting out all of these narratives and stories about all these different people. And the people are eating it up, right? Now, I'll say this. If you were to ask me how much of what she says do I believe, I'd say maybe about 2%. I think in some cases there's a little, and that's a little validity to some of the things that she's saying, but I question the context of how it's being presented, right? But the issue is she has had free reign to kind of run and just say any and everything. And it's interesting watching people run with it and then put it off as true. And then we have additional content creators that take it and make content and continue to spread these different things, right? And just to, and I promise you, I'm not trying to tear this lady down, because again, like what I'm seeing is an exploitation. My smoke isn't even really with her, because at this point, to me, she can't help it. But all of these people that know that they want to come up, they know getting her on their platform will get them the views that they want, or will open the doors. Like when you hear some of the things she said, and I'm going to be really careful with what I share, because I don't want people thinking I'm endorsing this, but like, even when you hear like what she put out there about the twins, those are the two dancers that, those two guys from France that do all the stuff with Beyonce, right? I'm not going to say exactly what she said, but she's specific. I'm just going to say this. She has a narrative about the two of them and Blue Ivy. And then just think of 9 months, and I'm going to leave it at that. She's been spreading that conversation, right? We've seen her eat her son's ashes out of the urn and throw them at people. We've seen her say Tevin Campbell was the victim of what. Tevin Campbell had to come back and be like, no, that's not true. We've also seen her somehow correlate the death of Takeoff with Meg Thee Stallion, right? And so the issue is clearly I can't diagnose the lady. I'm not a doctor, but I do know people who are schizophrenic, and I've seen how some of them move. I can't say that that's what she battles with, but for the people that I personally know who deal with schizophrenia, one of the things that I've seen happen is that there's a combination of things that happen within their imagination mixed with people that they either know or have an association with, or people that know people that they know, right? And then a lot of times there's some kind of tragedy or some kind of ill-will thing that takes place, and all of it gets stirred up into a blender and spit back out. And before you know it, next thing you know, it's out there saying that Michelle Obama actually shot 6 people in the neck last week, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that comes out. I don't know if that's her situation, No idea. But long story short, I'm minding my beautiful black business and I see that she's on Piers Morgan. I said, oh Lord, the platforms are getting bigger, right? And so I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't have that kind of patience, but I did see a segment of it. And it just, the craziest piece to me again is people are exploiting this lady and they know that they can get the ratings that they want. So I'm watching the things that she's talking about. And at this point, she was after Jay-Z, Beyonce, right? And she starts talking about how, you know, I don't remember if she said 300 or 500, but she was saying that she had personally talked to either 300 or 5, well, we'll say hundreds of victims to Beyonce and Jay-Z. They all had her information. And I'm like, and everybody's running with like, yep, I've been trying to tell y'all. Yep. Because I know there's this whole thing. For some reason, everybody wants Jay-Z to be the terrible person. So for some reason, people have been counting on his downfall. And it's not just him. It's pretty much a lot of these celebrities. I'm not really invested in it because I'm not that married and tied to celebrities to begin with. I got my favorite entertainers for what they do on stage, and it stays there. But, you know, so there's all these people, yep, we've been trying to tell y'all. We've been trying to tell y'all. And I'm like, wait a minute. So somebody took the piece where she was talking about the hundreds of victims and ran with it. Like, yeah, she has access to hundreds of victims. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me that with whatever these victims, and this is not to take away from anybody, but with whatever these victims would have gone through, you mean to tell me that out of the hundreds, every last one of them said, rather than going to the authorities, let's go to Jaguar Wright. She'll be able to help us. When in reality, because my question becomes, well, what has Jag been doing? Because Jag has all this insight, all these connections, all these stories, but what is she doing to remedy the situation other than going on podcasts? I don't see her leading the investigation and talking to the FBI about whatever she's claiming has taken place. So that's where I'm like, I'm a little lost, I'm a little confused here. And then the other issue is people that are actually victims of people that run in these circles. I think every single time we continue to platform folks that are out here just saying anything, it chips away at the validity and the claims of actual victims and those who are trying to get their stories heard. And before you know it, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf kind of thing, and nobody is believed, right? Because it's kind of like when she was saying the stuff about J and B, everybody kept saying, why? How come Beyonce and Jay-Z haven't sued? How come they ain't sued yet? How come they ain't sued yet? And I was sitting there thinking, like, give it a minute. That cease and desist is coming. So then here comes the cease and desist. And who did it go to? And went to Piers Morgan. Then everybody was like, why didn't they give it to her? And I'm looking like, well, because he has the platform that's able to do more damage than she can. She's only as popular as the next place that will give her a stage. Piers actually has a platform that can go out there. I'm not trying to be like that messy person, but I feel like if I really wanted to, I could probably get Jag on this channel. Like, Jag is willing to talk to anybody who's willing to give her an ear, right? I don't know. I need people to just have some discernment. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I saw another clip, on another show. It's her and Orlando Brown. You know Orlando from That's So Raven and Family Matters from way back when he was Lil Richie's friend. So now I'm watching that, and I'm like watching the two of them have this discourse, and now he's talking about she wrote The Matrix. I'm just like, y'all, are we for real here? Because the sad part is, again, all these content creators run with it, and next thing you know, that's the next story that they're talking about. I'm like, y'all, I do think things have affected both of them. I don't know if it's bad batches of substances. I don't know. But so I don't want to take that away from them. But it's like, please stop platforming these people. These people clearly have things they're trying to work through. And you guys keep putting them on these platforms. They go and they say whatever they say. People take it as truth and run with it. I'm going to give another example that really had me very, very confused. And I'm not even going to really get the details on it because it pissed me off so much. But I'm going to just say it has to do with New Orleans. So anyway, I saw this floating around yesterday and even maybe the day before. And it's this conspiracy theory. And the crazy part, and it's a conspiracy theory about like things that would have happened to Black people collectively. And the crazy part is, because there have been so many atrocities that have happened to Black people collectively in this country, it's very easy to fall into certain things. Like, yeah, I can see that happening. But this one is so out of pocket and so far beyond the realms of reality. I was like, no way, right? And I even went to go look it up myself, and I could not find any sources of this, no anything, right? So then as I'm reading the comments, because this is kind of semi-going viral, what had me concerned was, out of the hundreds of comments, because I was locked in, I was looking at every quote tweet, every reply under the thing, literally almost every person aside from like 3 or 4 people were like, yep, I remember that. I've been trying to tell you. Yep, that's how they do. See, that's why we need to, like, I was like, and if you look at the logistics of what that conspiracy theory was about, help us. That's all. Help us. Folks need help. We're now getting into a place where disinformation has become so prevalent and so normalized. a lot of people are having a really hard time with deciphering between truth and untruth, and deciphering between people being like spiteful or deceiving versus trying to enlighten, which is a very slippery slope and a dangerous slope when people are not able to decipher the difference. Like I'm even seeing an influx of like AI pictures used in different narratives that are put out there in some revolutionary conversations or some political conversations, and people can't even tell that the image is fake. And it's obvious, like some of these images, like, you know, the AI, the people be having this would be one hand. People got 8 hands and everything else like that. The ear is too far high on one side of the head, the other one down here. Picture don't even look real, and the thing will go viral. And then you look at the comments. Yep, we've been trying to tell you. And I'm always like, where are all these people who've been trying to tell us? Because I be sitting on this live like every other week, and I don't be seeing nothing in the comments with nobody telling me something that they've been trying to tell me. I be ready to. Where is it? Can you send me to where you were telling everybody? But it's like there's just so much like disinformation that's out there that people continue to kind of latch onto and run with. And there's lots of, and it's also evident, especially with places like Twitter, you have lots of accounts that are not even real people, let alone Black folks, that are marketing and presenting themselves as like Black media or Black, you know, political thought type of channels and everything like that. And they are purposely harping on the outrages that Black people collectively have with the world and with the US and with Republicans and with Democrats and with all of the different ills that exist within the world, right? And they will latch onto that and put all kind of nonsense out. And it's kind of scary how many people run with it and take it as truth, or take it as a reason to, you know, disconnect from reality, or take it like it is wild to me, right? All I'll say is, again, people start checking sources and make sure they're reputable, and get more than one source. And a source is not Instagram. A source is not a meme. Just because it has big handwriting and some suspenseful music does not make it true. These like AI generated YouTube videos that are spewing a lot of nonsense out there, just because it has the images of whatever celebrity or person that is talking about does not mean it's true, right? Please, I need folks to do better. I'm gonna stop right there. My God, like Whitney Houston, you said, my God, my God. All right. Ginger tea again. Okay, let's see here what we got. I think that's our last super heavy one. I think the rest of our conversations are a bit funner. Yeah, we get to kind of laugh at the rest of this. I ain't got to be in here cussing but oh wait, I got one more person to chew out. I get to them in a second. Okay. Painting and smearing us as individuals instead of the problem being the system. Exactly. There's definitely a narrative out there of individualizing systemic issues and always making it the fault of the person. And that kind of goes back to even one of the flaws that we saw during the Reagan administration with the pull yourself up by the bootstraps and the welfare queen title and all these different things that kind of painted the idea of people are poor or not wealthy because they don't work hard enough, or they're not smart enough. They don't have enough drive, like those who became something, right? Same kind of thing. Let's see here. Thank you, Andre, for sharing that. There's a great show on NPR called Seizing Freedom about Black people's efforts around the Civil War. I haven't actually, let me write that one down. I don't think I've seen that one. So thank you for sharing that. Boom, boom, boom. All right. What was that called? Seizing. Yeah. I lost the spot already. Where is it at? Oh, Seizing Freedom. Okay. Y'all pray for me to get some glasses. I don't know why I'd be in denial about them. I got them right here and still refuse to put them on. All right. Let's see here. Somebody said, love these lives because we always learn something. Thank you. I'm trying to get in the habit of doing a bit more pre-made content so I can really actually dive into details about things. I love doing the lives because I like to interact with you guys in the chat. But I have a greater love for the pre-made content because that's when I'm really like on it. I feel like that's when I feel like I can really like deep dive and go, and you know, we got the visuals. I could also just change how I do the live and maybe use StreamYard or something so I could actually have the visuals. But I kind of just like how this setup is real, just kind of straightforward. Brown skin beauty. Yes, all of that. And we didn't even have regular plumbing either. We had septic tanks. I remember when I stayed with my dad's great aunt in Utica, and they still had an outhouse because the property they were on used to actually be the property of the sharecropper that the family had worked on. And when the sharecropper had passed, they actually left the land to them. So the house didn't have plumbing that they were at. Let's see. Somebody said, we really got to build better. And this is a Maverick Lex, cuz the suburban low density makes the infrastructure less affordable. Clean water, underground electricity, high-speed internet, public transit. I totally agree. There's a lot of things that really need to kind of shift. Fortunately, there has been some policy implemented to kind of do that, but I think we still need more. Because I still think the U.S. is very behind a lot of other countries who, at one point, technically, when we're talking infrastructure, were way behind us. And now it's like we're still moving like a lot of our infrastructure is still set up like it's 1981, right? 1972. There's so much that could be done so much better, right? Let's see. Somebody said, Calvin, I'm sorry to hear what that pastor did. That was horrible. I mean, I kind of was never, I didn't have like a real connection with him because when we joined that church, I was already 17. I was already on my way out the door to go to college. So, you know, that was like 2005-ish. So then the time that my father was in the hospital, that was like 2014, right? And I had already went to college. I come back home, lived at home, went back to that church for like 1 year. That's when I was a choir director. Then I moved back to DC, and I had been living in DC as an adult. So I didn't really know that guy like that. But yeah, I was never too crazy. But that for me was the nail in the coffin. Like, really? Okay. And mind you, like I said, this was a smaller church. It wasn't, but you know, 4 or 5 men that were prominent in the church actually helping with stuff. And I'm like, if one of them is on the deathbed, you can't even give them a good prayer. We ain't asking for money. We just said prayer. That's the easy thing to do. But whatever. Let's see. Somebody said they're exploiting that woman so much. They are. And it's and the part that gets me too, because people will fight you when you say like all of this stuff she's saying is not true. And everybody's justification is, well, she was at the industry parties. And I'm like, I hear that. Yeah, she was at the parties in like 2002, 2003, 2004. But going back, because she has now been on this podcast circuit for 3-4 years, anybody who's doing any kind of suspicious stuff would never have her around. They would not even have people who know her around, right? So I personally feel that much of what she's talking about in relation to anybody in modern times, she has no correlation or connection to. This is a lot of things that she's created in her mind. And like I said, she can't help it. But people love a good story. And I think because we're also in this era where I do feel like the era of celebrity is dying, right? I feel like the power that celebrities once had over the general population as far as the influence, that has changed, that has shifted. That explains why a lot of these artists can't sell out concerts. That explains why, you know, people don't really buy albums anymore. That explains why a lot of these movies aren't really doing well. Like if you go back to the 90s, an actor could sell a movie. You knew from about 1996 to 2005, every summer was a Will Smith summer. Didn't matter what the movie was. As long as he was in it, everybody was going to go see it. You go back to that time period before 2005, Tom Cruise could sell a movie just by his name, right? You had Robert De Niro is going to sell a movie by his name. George Clooney, movie by his name. Denzel, movie by his name. Let me add some women in here. I sound terrible. Meryl Streep, movie by her name. Angela Bassett, they going to see whatever she's at. Like there's all these different people who literally didn't have to do anything but be in a movie and folks would flock to see it. Halle Berry, all these folks, right? Now that's not the case. And it's kind of shifted where now it's different, a series or, you know, really the big draw to movie theaters right now is like the comic book series. So anything in DC, anything in Marvel, that's what will bring people to the theaters. It's not necessarily the actors in the movie at this point, but specifically the movie. Or a lot of times now it's like nostalgia flicks. So like, I'm sure one of the big movies that will be a big thing is when they do the Freaky Friday sequel. It won't be specifically because it's Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lynn Curtis, but it's more so the idea of Freaky Friday, the story that people have a connection to. Or this Lion King, Mufasa's tale will probably do well, mainly because of the conversation of Lion King. Nobody's watching it because of who's playing Mufasa or whoever else. It's about the storyline. I'm going to backtrack what I said with Freaky Friday. I do think a lot of people would see that specifically for Lindsay and Jamie Lee Curtis. But yeah, I think the eras have shifted and celebrities don't carry the same kind of weight. So a lot of people have enjoyed watching the downfall of these celebrities. So it's kind of enlightening and thrilling for a lot of people to latch onto the conspiracies that some of these celebrities just might be really, really terrible people, right? And so we're kind of in that weird era. And hey, it's not to take away and say that some of these celebrities are not, but I think a lot of people are willing to just put anything together if it can create a narrative that they want to believe, right? Somebody said, folks, let's not forget, she can sing. Now, yes, she is a wonderful singer, right? What's that album she had? Was it Delusions? And I'm not being shady. That's what the album, let me look it up because I don't want y'all thinking I'm trying to name call. Let me see what this album was called. I think it was called Delusions. That woman was singing down on that album. I just want to make sure I got it right because I don't want y'all coming after me. Yeah, Denials and Delusions. That's what the name of the album was. Wait. Yeah, Denials, Delusions, and Decisions. That's what it was called. Okay. And that was, what year was that? That was 2002. Okay, yeah. You know. And I will also say, I think there are a lot of dark hidden secrets within the industry, whether it be music, TV, Hollywood. I don't deny that. But I think even in that conversation, you don't want to just be putting any and everything out there if it necessarily isn't true. And I'm not saying everything out of her mouth is a liar and she's doing it from spite. I just honestly think she can't help it. And then, because a lot of folks are like, but she was the first to talk about Diddy. I'm like, everybody been calling out Diddy. Aubrey from Dan Diddy Kane been whacking Diddy since she got kicked out the group and talking about how terrible he was. Like, person after person. You had, well, he ain't alive no more. He got sick and passed. But Craig Mack had his reasons why he couldn't stand anything with Diddy. Like, all of these bad boy artists, story after story after story after story. Like, all these folks. So it's not even just necessarily her, right? That's how I see it. And we know a broken clock is right twice a day. Anyway. Somebody says stress and trauma on the brain can cause an altered state of reality. When I talk about, again, the friend that I had that battles with schizophrenia, theirs came and developed once they started a PhD program. I think they were in a very, very, very stressful environment. Plus the fact, again, another conversation, their father had passed. And I think I told the story, so I'm not about to dig into it, but I just know they came to visit and had a whole manic episode in my apartment that I was not ready for. And I was like, what do I do here? And my mom's supposed to be here tomorrow. Like, yeah, a time. People were saying somebody better sue her. I don't think she really has a lot. And I think for some people, suing her would be a waste of money. You have to cease and desist, but like, I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons why I think for a lot of people, they would rather just kind of blow it off, because eventually, because she does so many interviews and says so much, the different stories that come out before you can even respond or sit with whatever was said, she's already talking about another person the next day. So I think for a lot of folks, they're like, we'll just let it blow over rather than give attention to it. Right. All right. My thing is just show the proof. Like, that's how I would argue. Show the proof. And I think people will not give her, or people will not be so like, or at least people like me won't be like, really? Just show the proof. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. But there's people who like to latch on to conspiracies. And then they're like, no, she can't show the proof because she showed the proof. Then the higher powers will come and get her. And then she'll be a hashtag by tomorrow. Like, so we got a lot going on. That's all I'll say. I have a comment here. Mariah Harrison, can you talk about the whole CSAC versus YouTube situation? I sent you information about it on Instagram. That's the hold on, why is my chat showing that? That's the bit about YouTube, some of the music labels and everything, and flagging videos that have music content. And I'm not 100% well versed in it. I know it doesn't really affect me because I don't post anything that's copywritten. So let me table it and come back to it. I don't want to be on here talking about what I don't know, but let me make a note to self to address this on the next live, because I don't have enough information on it yet. I do not want to be on here like in the same way that we were talking about last time. Don't be on here just talking if you don't know what you're talking about, or at least make sure you got your facts right before you get in front of a camera. I want to make sure I follow my own advice. I'm going to make sure I do that. Okay. El Marie said, if they sue her, they're guilty. If they don't sue her, they're guilty. Yeah, folks will move this goalpost. Somebody said, we aren't really taught to think critically, in my opinion. I have adults tell me they like an answer, but not details, sadly. You know, it makes me think back to, I remember I almost fought this kid in 6th grade. So in 6th grade was like the new millennium for me. Like my 6th grade year was 99 to 2000. And so remember in 2000, everybody thought the world was going to end, or some people did, right? And so I remember we had this argument at recess because this one kid was like, yeah, when after the clock strikes 12, you know, the world's going to end. We're all going to die and whatever. And I was like, well, if the world didn't end in the year 1000, why would it end in the year 2000? 2000 ain't even like a cool year. You don't think they want to wait till like 3000 or 5000, 10,000? Why 2000? And then this is in AD time. Like, it's not even technically the year 2000. It's just the year 2000 AD. And I don't, when I tell you the two of us, for some reason, we started arguing about this forever today. And we were using all these stupid examples. Like, we kept using the example out of the Jennifer Lopez Waiting for the Night video when, you know, the clock strikes 12 and the power goes out. And they kept saying, well, really, in real life, in the video, the power went out, but it came back on and they started partying. In real life, the power's going to go out forever. And then there was this other kid who was like, no, when 2000 comes, that's when everything's going to be, all the computers going to be automated and we're going to be living like the Jetsons. And I'm like, overnight? So, like, you mean to tell me I'm gonna wake up and then, like, everything in the house, like the cabinets will open for themselves and here is your glass. Like, we about to come to blows over this, right? It's just interesting how people like interpret different things. But yeah, I don't think we're taught to critically think the same way anymore, right? And somebody has it right here. R. Collins, disinformation is so hard. You cannot even make people trust the actual evidence, right? Because everybody is in a space where it's like, well, who can you actually trust, right? That's how bad society has gotten. We've had so many corrupt people in charge, so many crooked things that have taken place, and a lot of things that took place right in front of us where people played in our faces. And so, yeah, you got a lot of folks who are like, it's real easy to jump into some nonsense and believe it right away, because sometimes it's not too far to put it past some of these folks with things that happen, right? And then again, all the fake profiles and bots, right? And then look, somebody like an Elon Musk, right? You want to talk about stirring the pot. Like, look at what he has done to Twitter, right? Somebody said, are we talking about the Shade Room, the Neighborhood Talk, Jasmine Brand? I mean, they fall into that conversation as well. They put a lot of nonsense on there. And when you read those comment sections, oh, God, I don't even read the comment section on those things. I was really talking about what I see on Twitter. But yeah, those ones there, just as wild. Remember that time that girl on Twitter was saying, like, I forgot the date. I think it was like December 21st or something. And she said all of the Black people, we were all going to have magical powers. But everybody instead kind of turned it into like a running joke. But yeah, hot mess. Let's see. Okay, let me get to Darius Cooks and then I'm going to go through the other topics. So I need people to stop pocket watching. So if you know Darius Cooks, he is kind of a chef that's pretty popular, has a lot of recipes and stuff that goes viral. I saw this today, where he was on whatever platform he uses ranting. He feels some kind of way because, you know, Tabitha Brown. Is it Tabitha Brown, Tabitha Smith? Let me make sure I'm saying the right person because I'll be mixing names up. Let me make sure I got this right. I want to say Tabitha Brown. Yeah, Tabitha Brown. Okay. What am I thinking, Tabitha? I'm probably thinking Tasha Smith. But anyway, the actress. But anyway, Tabitha Brown has signed some kind of deal with Target, right? You know, Tabitha Brown has all these different things she has going, like the vegan recipes, I think some cookbooks, some seasonings, a bunch of different things that she has going. And she signed some kind of brand deal with Target. And for some reason, he's mad about it. So he goes on his social media platform and he's talking about, you know, she's a fool because ain't no goddamn way, you know, I would ever sign my name to nothing like Target. And he starts talking about all the deals that she could have had. He was, you know, even if Target offered me $10 million, I ain't doing it. And she could have went in business for herself, $56 million right there. And then he starts talking about how she would have did this. She could have had $150 million. Like, he's sitting here going in, right? Just going in on this lady. And for me, it goes back to why are you pocket watching? That's the thing I don't get. Don't you got your own stuff going? And my thing is, if you are so worried about how she's handling her business, you could have reached out to her. I'm sure it's easy for you to get her contact information rather than going to your platform and then blasting and dragging this lady for however long on your platform from the comfort of your car. Like, to me, that makes no sense. So you're like, I'm not sure where he was going with this, because didn't he close his 3 restaurants? And it's not even to be shady, but you closed your 3 restaurants, right? And so I think for some people, if we're talking about her and doing her brand deal, it might be that she doesn't want to do the heavy lifting. Maybe she just wants to create whatever products and let the larger corporations kind of take it on from there. And, you know, she does the brand deal and she gets her, you know, her check and moves on. She might not want to be tied to the idea of running an entire company and having to manage distribution and having to manage all the things that come with running a 7, 8, 9-figure business. Not everybody wants to do that. So if she's happy and content with how she moves with whatever deal she has, what is it to you? If that ain't your thing, it ain't your thing, and that's perfectly fine. But going on your platform and trying to whack her because you think she's a fool, like, what is the end goal here, right? And then it's funny because I love the way that she responded, because she responded without even saying his name or bringing up the situation. You know, she is really good at talking in parables, right? And painting a whole picture and laying it out without even having, like, when I say she dragged that man so bad without even trying, I need people to stop pocket watching. It makes me think back to the pandemic when folks got them $1,200 checks. And there were so many people on social media like, you need to be using that $1,200 to start a business. That's the problem with y'all. Y'all just want to shop. You wasting money on groceries. That could have bought you the LLC. That's it. Everybody is not going to be the business person. That's not what everybody wants to do, right? Like, again, and $1,200 ain't no, like, $1,200 ain't even a lot of money. That's literally you just getting the LLC. Now I gotta still do the business. I still gotta come up with whatever the product is. I gotta figure out distribution. I gotta figure out how to put it into processing so I can make more of it. I gotta figure out marketing. I gotta figure out if I gotta employ people. Now I gotta give everybody W-9s or 1099s. I gotta do all that stuff. I gotta figure out the taxes. I gotta figure out what the laws are. Like there's so much to think about. Like even executive producing pullovers so I can hit you, right? Wonderful movie to shoot. I loved every minute of being on set, even though I didn't get to be on set for a lot of it because I was running and doing the big executive producer thing. When I talk about how much stuff I had to do behind the scenes, like permit after, actually here, I will give you prime examples of just some of the things that you have to take care of if you're going to like executives produce anything in film and expect it to be distributed, right? There's all kind of things that you have to get cleared, right? One, you have tons of permits. Wherever you film, you have to have a permit, especially if you're talking in, and we did California, we did LA. So LA has different rules. There's reasons why people will film in Canada or film in Georgia, film in different places because every place has their own set of rules, right? And so if we're just talking about all the things that I had to get done just for this 13-minute movie, right? So it's like, because we also used USC, you had to get the student certification form, right? Get that cleared away. You have the original writing release form. That means like if there's like any, let me see, what did I use it for? I used mine for, okay. That's dealing with like giving rights to like different pieces that might specifically not be from your initial script, but you've added it in, right? You got to do that. If you have adults that work on set, you have to have the adult volunteer form. And then because we still shot and it was technically still COVID at the time, then you have your COVID release forms. You have the COVID emergency forms. You also still have to get everybody's COVID card, right? Or at least proof that they had a vaccination or that they had taken a COVID test and they showed you proof that they were, they didn't have COVID. Then you have the minor volunteer form, but you also have the minor release form. And you also have the minor form for if the minor was paid, right? And then you also still have to get a student teacher. So even if you film specifically on a weekend, kids are not in school, but you still need an adult there that is going to keep an eye on the kid while everybody's on set. So you have to pay for that studio teacher. They normally charge about $350 for an 8-hour session. And then they charge you an additional $55 for overtime, right? And then you have the non-volunteer worker release form. These are the people that are being paid, right? So then you also have the contract. You have to have the contract of every person that you've paid, right? In our film, we use a green screen. We had to get a colorist because when you shoot everything raw. Like everything is flat. There's not really, the color is really, really dull. And then you pay a colorist during post-production to add the color that you want. That's why, like, if you watch a comedy movie, the colors tend to be very bold and bright. So like a movie like Bridesmaids or a movie like, we can even say Friday, the color's kind of bright and popping. But then if there's a movie that's more suspenseful or daring and it's a little bit darker, the colors are not really as bright. So you can watch a movie like I Am Legend, right? Suspenseful. It kind of has that blue overtone, like it's kind of dingy, right? Or like if it's like a kid's movie, it's going to be even brighter, right? So think of something like Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. That's a really old example, but the coloring changes, right? So you're paying your colorist. Let me see who all did we have to pay. You got to pay any actors that you've paid on set with everything that they have. And then again, if they're SAG, there's another set of conversations with what their pay rate is. In addition to the SAG release form, there's a form called Exhibit G that you got to get signed. Let me see what else you would have to do. Then if you have your AD, your associate director, a lot of times you're going to pay them for the work that they're doing. You're paying your cinematographer. You're paying your editor. You're paying the sound mixer, right? There's somebody that's going to specifically do sound. It's not like you're just using the sound from the cameras and just because they got the boom mic. Even after you got all that, you're still going to sit in a sound stage and you're going to do all kind of different things. So there was a moment where me and my director, and I remember we were butting heads on this because I was annoyed because I couldn't understand what she was asking me. And so while we were figuring out the sound cue, she's like, tell me what Spanaway sounds like. I was like, what? I was like, Spanaway doesn't sound like anything. Like there's nothing that goes on there because it's a smaller town. It's just, you know, we got a few cars and a Walmart and every now and then a military plane flies. By the time we got through this conversation and I finally understood what she meant, she was saying you have to paint the picture of when you see the scene. And so it's like, yeah, it's quiet, but what else is happening? You got eagles and crows flying, right? You can hear the frogs from the pond near down the hill, you know, the bullfrogs making sounds. You can hear that. You can hear the sound of your neighbor's car starting in the garage or not starting, and they're trying to get it to start, right? You can hear the sound of the little kid on a scooter riding down the sidewalk, right? You can hear the sound of the wind blowing against somebody's chimes, like all those kind of things. You can hear the sound of some parent way down the street yelling at their child, get in the house, right? And like all of that are things that you input into a scene, right? Just to make it so that when you're watching, you feel like you're in the neighborhood too. Stuff I would have never thought about. That's what the sound person does, right? What else am I thinking of? And then if we have to go back and do additional footage, because maybe we need to get some B-roll, you got to pay those people. And then those people also have different contracts that you got to get. There's all these different things. If you use anybody's music, fortunately, I got my own recording studio, we use my music, but I still had to fill out a bunch of documents to even give the clearance to use my music in my own movie for the score and not the soundtrack, but the song that's actually used in the movie, right? So you have that kind of stuff that you have to fill out. Then you have the extra release forms. People that don't have speaking parts, but they're still on camera, you got to get that, right? Then you have to get what you call, it's an SRT file, right? That's technically the file that you use to create captions in the event that you need a screening that deals with accessibility. You got to get that. There's the sound effects cue sheet that you got to get and get that cleared. There's the original footage piece that you got to get cleared. If you use any kind of B-roll or any kind of stock photos footage, anything else like that, you have to have a safety shooting plan. You have to have your budget documented, every receipt, every refund, when you fed everybody. Like there's so much stuff. There's a thing called DPR, which is pretty much a synopsis of everything that you've done on set that day. What time did you start? How many people were on the scene? What time did they come to the set? What time did they leave the set? What time did they go into makeup? What time did they get out of makeup? When was the break? Like all of that stuff you got to put in there. Like there's so much stuff. I'm going to stop because I don't want to talk your ears off. But again, that's just to executive produce a 13-minute short film in order to make it eligible for some of these film festivals, right? In order to be eligible for when the festivals are done, if we want to try to get on like a Netflix or something, we've already checked all the boxes and we get in this big packet of all this stuff that's clear so we don't have to worry about being sued later. That's just a short film. So imagine Tabitha, you trying to run a whole business, right? Like that's the kind of stuff people do it. So if that's not what she wants to do, why are you worried about it? You worry about why them 3 restaurants ain't open no more. And I'm not trying to drag him for that because, hell, I ain't got a restaurant open. I wouldn't be able to keep one open either. But it's like this pocket watching that we live in, right? It's weird. So, yeah, when the folks were like, yeah, you should use that stimulus check to start a business of what? Everybody doesn't have a gift that's profitable that they can monetize. We all can't have a T-shirt business. Respect to everybody who makes T-shirts. Shout out to my cousin. She made me a cool one. I'll show it later. It got some profanity on it, so I don't want to show that one. But, like, yeah, everybody has whatever purpose they have in this life, right? And it's not always going to be something that, let me say this, we don't live for the approval of somebody else who has no interest in our well-being to begin with, right? You live for yourself. You live for the things that you're passionate about and what gives you joy. So I need folks to stop pocket watching. I don't know why he even opened his mouth. And it was just weird to sit here and rant and go in on this woman. A woman who has built an entire platform, not even because of the products that she has, but how she makes people feel. That's a gift, right? She could have made socks and she would have been successful. It didn't even have to be the vegan food in the season. It's the energy that she gives out connects with people. People like the feeling that she gives them. She gives joy to people in a world where there's not a lot of joy right now. And then here you go, trying to take somebody's joy, looking miserable. Do better. All right. Somebody said we love a profanity t-shirt. You know, I'm going to shout my cousin out. I'm going to go get the t-shirt real quick. I'll be right back. Shout her business out. All right. She is a young entrepreneur. She's like 19, 20, maybe 21, 22. I forgot how old she is. All right. I want to wear this at work, but I would get fired, right? Boom. Like, I don't know where I'm going to wear this. I'm going to wear it somewhere. But shout out to my cousin. She does a lot of like graphic t-shirts where you can kind of put anything that you want on it. Let me see if I can find what her thing is. And then if y'all are interested, y'all can kind of check her out. Hold on. Let me pull up her thing. Who did I send it to? I gotta remember what the girl's thing is called. It's hard to remember people's whatchamacallit. It's always hard to remember people's Instagram name. Damn. Okay. I'm gonna gradually look for her thing while I continue these conversations. Oh no. I think she commented on my album. Let me see. Or maybe it was my music video. Let me see. Which, by the way, hey, that music video is almost at like 1920K, which is kind of dope. That already surpassed the last one. So I thank y'all for watching. For those who did. Sorry, I want to make sure I give my cousin her flowers. Oh, okay. Wait, this ain't my cousin. I'll figure it out later. Okay, we'll come back to it. I'll put it in the chat when I find it. Okay. Anyway, let me read the comments here. Yeah. All right. Oh, somebody said rest in peace, Cissy Houston. I'm gonna come back to her a little bit later, but yes, rest in peace to Cissy. Angela Crawley said, Calvin, I had a random dream yesterday that you and I collaborated on a film project. LOL. As long as I don't got to executive produce it, I'm good. I don't want to executive produce no more. I will happily act. I will write. I will direct. But man, actually, I shouldn't say that. If I executive produce anything else, I would make sure I have the backing of a studio, so I'm not on an island by myself trying to pull everything together. It's a lot of work, but it definitely has made me realize that you don't even realize what you can do when you're under pressure. One of these days, and maybe after I finish the series with the kids on the podcast, I'll do a whole episode just about that process, because I have never been pushed to my limits before with just so many unexpected things that kept coming, and you have to really be quick on your feet and put out all kind of fires. But yeah, me and the director spent so much time just laughing about some of the stuff we had to deal with. Let's see. Somebody said there's a weird shift going on in society in our world. Somebody said, hope it wasn't on a Monday. I'm not sure what this is about. I kind of lost. We talk about so much sometimes I can't remember where we're at. Let's see. Somebody said there's always truth mixed in fiction. Somebody said the proof, Diddy being exposed is the truth. Well, to that though, that's already kind of there. We already kind of knew that. Like that was already down the pipeline. But specifically, okay. And then I'll even say, as far as like Jay-Z or Beyonce, if you're gonna say they're evil, then it's kind of like, well, I'm not gonna fight y'all on this. Y'all feel how you want to feel, but it's like, I think with Jay-Z, you can paint certain things that he has done in the past that you could highlight, whether it's the conversation around the stabbing and selling the drugs to this person, that person. But I think when people make this narrative, it's like people are talking like Beyonce and Jay-Z got this dungeon and there's children being trafficked down in the basement and they're sabotaging and sacrificing people so Beyonce can keep selling out stadiums, and like that's the narrative that's coming out there. So even if you're gonna call somebody evil, I feel like there has to be, I gotta be given a little bit more to give me the why and how with the proof. Yeah, that's just me, right? Let's see, because y'all know Jay-Z is somebody I've been tearing a new one into for a lot, especially with the NFL stuff way back when, and some of the things that he said. I don't see him as a revolutionary figure with anything. I just see him as a businessman that takes up an opportunity, right? That's pretty much what I give him. And he also happened to be a pretty good rapper. Let's see. Somebody said her seasoning makes food tasty with no salt. I have one of her seasonings. It has like something like ginger and something else in it. It's not bad. Queen said, did he want a brand deal himself? I don't know. I didn't he have something with Hennessy or something? I don't know. I don't want to put nothing out there if it's not true, but yeah, I don't know. I just found it very interesting that for some reason had him pressed out. Like, listen, there's other people on YouTube where sometimes I wish they would do things differently, but that's their channel. They can do whatever they want. In the same way, people probably feel the same way about me and mine, right? So rather than trying to all of a sudden have smoke for certain channels, not because they're out here putting out BS, but I just think there's things they could do so much better. Who am I to talk? I don't even be putting out that much content enough. Y'all be sitting here waiting 2 and 3 weeks for me to show up. So I would be one to talk. So I just mind my little quiet YouTube Calvin business and keep it moving, right? Stop pocket watching all these people. Somebody said, thanks for the executive producer tips. I'm interested in producing. But now I was kind of naming all the hard stuff that's very like lots of lifting, but there's still a lot of really fun things. Like I really had a lot of fun like getting to know the cast and doing the auditions and writing the script and that kind of stuff. That was all still kind of fun, right? Somebody said, work smart, save your peace. That's how I am. That's the only way I can get all this stuff done anyway. Like, you know, balancing all the creative things I do, plus my 9 to 5, plus the community work I still am tied to. I find ways to work smart. I do not believe in doing all-nighters anymore. I have not done an all-nighter since I was 24, and I don't plan on doing any more. I believe in sleep. I believe in having time to live life and be entertained and see friends and eat well and laugh and have moments to check out. I really believe in that. Like, I don't believe in I'm not about to burn myself out ever. Like, no, can't do it. Life is too short. Even still find time to go to the gym. All right. Somebody said $1,200 wouldn't even cover my rent. Wouldn't cover mine either. Man. Exactly, Leah Marie. They said Aunt Tab built her brand off her personality and relatability. And it wasn't even her, right? It was the daughter that had a platform, and Mama just happened to get on there, and then Tabitha happened to blow up too, right? That was kind of how she got on, right? If I think I remember. Yeah. All right. Somebody said props to your cousin. I really got to find what her. When I find it, I will make sure I put it in the description. I want to make sure she gets her opportunity. All right, we're gonna move on because I got a few more topics. I'm gonna read like 2 more comments, and then we'll keep going from there. Thank you. Asymptotic behavior. Darius is a scammer. This man has been sued multiple times, and he's been all over the news outlets. See, I didn't even know all that part, but see, yeah, like just let's stop pocket watching, right? Don't come in here trying to kill somebody else's joy. That's how I see it, right? Dun, dun, dun. Somebody said, love your video for I Want. The choreo is so good. Yeah, and we didn't even have a lot of time to even get that prep. We only had 2 rehearsals. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to shoot. I had a lot of fun on that set. And even all the people with the dances were really fun. I do have some promotional content coming out around how we made the video and how I made the albums. That kind of come out throughout the weeks as I finally get back into my content creating pocket on this channel and start actually dropping content outside of just the music, but YouTube. So yeah, we're getting there. Okay. I guess we already brought up Cissy Houston, but you know, she was the mother of Whitney Houston, she's passed on and went on to glory. Yes, rest in peace. It is sad that everybody goes, but I think with Cissy, because she was of a certain age, I don't really see it as like, for me, when people have lived to at least be like 85-ish, right? By then I'm like, yeah, you lived a good life. And so to me, every day after 85 is like, that's the blessing for me. Like I was saying on the last live, like when I was little, I used to think 70 was really, really old. And that was when it was time to go on. And now to me, 70 seems really young. Like 70 seems like you have so much time to still do all kind of things. You may physically move a bit differently, right? But I feel like 70, like I met this woman who was getting her PhD at Howard's Divinity School, like maybe a few years back, who decided to get her doctorate while she was in her 70s. So it's like, to me, 70 is not super old. So yeah, you know, it's kind of sad that, you know, it's the grandma, the daughter, and the daughter have all transitioned. But yeah, the one thing we can thank Cissy for, she gave us one of the greatest voices. She already had an amazing voice to begin with, but then here comes Whitney, right? And we've seen the amount of singers in the generations that Whitney has inspired. So that's a gift right there. Your existence gave us something even greater, right? And then on top of the fact that Cissy had a great singing career, being in the girl group that she was in, and then having her own career, her own solo career, and then her career in gospel, and then working with all the acts like Aretha and everything like that. Yeah. So rest in peace to Cissy. That's the only thing that's sad as we get older, you start watching everybody transition. I was starting to think about like, dang, 10 years from now, there's going to be so many more people who aren't here anymore that I don't even want to think about it. These Veneers, all right? I kind of saw this story about the veneer tech who had, you know, he's been arrested and charged for kind of like a malpractice, like doing the work of a dentist without the dentist credentials. And, you know, I didn't realize just how big I'm going to call it backdoor veneers where people go to, they call them like veneer techs, right? Now, mind you, there's no official accredited program where you can be a veneer tech that I know about. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's all these people who have gone through these different programs to be veneer techs, and they take like a class and a half, right? And next thing you know, people sign up to get their mouths drilled in. Now, my thing, because it's concerning, because I'm seeing all these people go to like these unauthorized locations and let people play in their mouth. You only get one set of teeth after the baby teeth are gone, right? And so watching people, like, the craziest thing, because I went down the rabbit hole the other day, right? I'm watching the YouTube videos, right? And I'm watching, they just got the little gadget. Nope, nothing has been numbed. Nothing has been disinfected. They just got this, and they just drilling and all this. And then they put these things on. And then some of the veneers, there's not even a space in between them. They can't even floss the things. They just got one big piece of porcelain or whatever it is. Stuff it in there and glue it and seal it down and put the laser, and then they go outside. Now their teeth are too big. They out here looking like Tim Scott. And then like I just was like, okay. And then the crazy part is then a lot of like a year or two later, people start having all these problems because again, like your teeth are like living things. There's nerves inside of them, right? So when you start doing all that drilling and understand like even your dental, everything in your mandible, the veins and everything, all that connects to things even in your heart. Like your dental health can affect what happens with your cardiac health, right? Like everything in our body is connected. Have you ever like, you randomly like stub your toe, but another part of your body hurts? You're like, oh shoot, damn, what the heck? Or whatever. Like everything is somewhat connected to our nerve endings and everything else like that. So I'm like, I would hope people are more careful with what they choose to do. It's kind of the same with like people going and getting like the backdoor plastic surgery or even in the BBL era, and people don't go to an actual doctor that knows what they're doing. They didn't flew to wherever and let somebody do it because they got a discount, and then they don't even technically do a BBL. They didn't inject the silicone into the person. Like there's all these different kind of things. Like I need folks to be careful. And it seems like what I've been seeing too, a lot of people who are getting these veneers, they don't even need them, right? Maybe sometimes people might just want to get some braces to straighten them out, but there's even people doing braces unofficially, right? Got whole Instagram pages. Yeah, braces by Keisha. I don't know if that's a real page or not. I'm just, so please don't go looking for that. But like, yeah, they just get in there. And then the problem with that is a lot of times the people end up losing teeth because with braces or an Invisalign, when you're doing all that shifting, there has to be a lot of time allotted in between the shifting. And sadly, some of these people who are making like unofficial braces and giving services, they're trying to shift and tighten the teeth too quickly, and it loosens up the teeth, and eventually the teeth come out, right? Because the teeth have just been pulled and tightened and wired, and you did too much too quickly. Like you can't go from a gap to perfectly straight teeth in 3 months and think your teeth are going to be healthy. Now all the teeth are all fragile and loop. Like people, teeth, you know what? Just eat applesauce for some of y'all. Just start buying applesauce. You get some Go-Gurt, Jello, drink water, but room temperature because your teeth are gonna be too sensitive for cold water and they're gonna be too sensitive for hot drinks. Just do what y'all got to do. If that's what you got to do, so you can get a good Instagram picture because you want your teeth to look perfect, go for it. But listen, there's some things you just can't cut corners around. There's not a shortcut through everything. For those who would like to do the veneer stuff, shout out to you, but please go to dentistry school and go through the full process so you know exactly what you're doing. So that way you're not running into a space where maybe the veneers look nice, but the teeth under them are not healthy and it leads to later health problems, right? All kind of things to think about. That's just all I'm saying. That's a lot. I don't play with teeth, right? Teeth, that's one of the first things people see, right? Yeah. God bless. All right. Yeah, they just in there. They in somebody. Oh yeah, come on downstairs. I got you. We got some veneers right here. And then, they don't even be looking at like the different, we all got like different size teeth. Some of our teeth they're not even longer or shorter, but our gums either come down further or come up. Or some people have really long roots. Like my teeth kind of look kind of short because I have long roots in the gums. Like everybody has a different tooth, but like some of these veneer folks, everybody get the same size veneer. It'd be the size of this scan disc. And they just putting them all around. Right now the teeth are too big. They can't even, they whole shape of their mouth has changed. They close your mouth and you looking like this because the teeth are too big. Like, God bless. I'll eat that Go-Gurt. All right. And good luck eating crab legs. You better get one of them little metal things and break them because you take one wrong bite. Like, done. 2 or 3 of them things going to come out. All right. Let's see here. Hi, Calvin. I don't understand how Diddy hasn't been convicted, but Trump has. Project 2025 is going to put black and brown people in Jim Crow. Can you explain how segregation works? Well, one with Diddy, his trial starts in May of 2025. I don't think Diddy getting off on this one. He got a lot tied to his name. Trump's already been convicted. Trump just hasn't been sentenced to jail. And Trump still has additional trials in the case. As far as segregation, a video you could visit is my "Nah, Steve Harvey, that's not how this works" video. That one does a really good job of explaining like the business aspect of how segregation affects people, specifically with redlining, and how the middle class was created for white people, but not us. So that's one video you could watch. You could watch my video on, what's that actor, Shamik? The one that said Rosa Parks should have took a cab. With Shamik Moore. You can watch the video I did on Shamik Moore. That really dives into the logistics of not just the boycott, but how segregation affected both sides of town. You could dig into, I'm trying to think, another video. Trying to think of my ones that specifically center on segregation. I got some lives on here where I know we definitely talked about it. I think if you just type in The Color of Law and then type my name in on YouTube, it should link you to the videos where I've talked about some of the things that have taken place specifically with segregation, with like block busting and things like that. There's a video I've done so many videos, I can't remember what's what. I know I would also say, if you're talking segregation, because it hasn't ended, like we can talk about like New York City being the most segregated school district or city, most segregated city in relation to school in the country, even in 2024. There's a podcast called Nice White Parents that does a great job of highlighting just how the New York City school system is still segregated and how people move in that. What's another video? We've covered like a lot of the gems are kind of in these lives. Like sometimes we'll just be talking and I get on my soapbox and then I just drop something in it. Yeah, it's all throughout the channel. Maybe we'll have another video that's a bit more in depth. But if I were to start going in and describing segregation and talking about it right now, we'll be here another 2 hours. So yeah, I would say check those videos first, and then who knows, maybe we'll add a segment in the next live or the next pre-made video that I make. But let me see. I can share a few facts though while we're at it. Let me go to my little facts notes, because you know I got a ton of notes that I just write every time I find and see something interesting here. We just keep writing. So let me see. Let's see what we can share if we're talking segregation. And even segregation within the criminal justice system. Not a single white crack user was convicted of a federal drug crime in Los Angeles during the 1980s, even though the majority of crack users were white. And the imaging always painted it as being black folks. That's one thing. Let's see. We know at least 200,000 African Americans were subject to convict leasing over an 80-year period before 1941. We know about the 7-year lifespan of people who were victims of convict leasing. In the prison industrial complex, again, 25% of those who were acquitted of a crime through DNA had confessed to their crime. That goes back to what we were talking about with the conversation of plea deals when it comes to federal and state crimes, and how a lot of people will take a plea because they likely trying to go into the system with lawyers and everything else. For a lot of people, it's easier to just take the plea. But the sad part is now that you're taking the plea and you have this on your record, it affects your livelihood when it comes to working and everything else like that. Okay. The original name for Brown versus Board of Education was going to be Riggs versus Elliott, because Brown versus Board of Education was actually 5 cases consolidated into one. And the problem was they didn't want a Southern state being the face of that case, which is why they centered on Brown versus Board of Education instead. Let's see here. I'll do like 1 or 2 more, and we got to keep it moving. Oh yeah. Prince Edward County, Virginia, when they finally integrated the schools in Prince Edward County, they did not want to integrate their schools. So instead, they decided to just close the whole school system for 2 years. So for 2 years, there were no schools open or public schools open. And all the white kids just went to their own private institutions and stuff like that. But they refused to share a classroom with the other groups of children. So that's one. Let me do one more, and then we got to keep it moving. Let's see. What's a good one I've written down? Okay, so even I'm gonna skip that one. Actually, I changed my mind. Give me a good one. What else do we have in here? I wrote a whole bunch. If we're talking specifically segregation. Okay, this one's a little intense, but maybe we'll talk about this one. 1921, Monticello, Georgia. John S. Williams owned sharecroppers. 18 years after the Penis decision, feds came to his farm and saw that the emancipated black workers, he had black people, like, long story short, they weren't supposed to be there anymore. The people come and find the people there, and they're emancipated and were afraid to talk. He was technically still holding them as slaves, and so he ended up actually killing each and every worker afterwards, right? And then they weighted down the chains of, like, they put weighted chains on the bodies of all the people that they killed and sent them down the river. And some of the people had to actually dig their own graves. And the only reason the bodies technically were found were from some boys that were fishing nearby, right? And then the guy, Williams and Manning, that's the people that owned the property, were found guilty and sentenced to life. Williams was the first white man since 1877 to be indicted for the first-degree death of a black man. It wouldn't happen again until 1966. All right, that's what I got for you tonight. All right. Funny child. So what happened? Mariah is coming in 2025. I know you're busy. I've actually been trying to get it out there. You know what's going to be funny when you guys watch it? Because I started filming it so long ago that I started filming it before I got sick and lost all that weight. And there's been some corrections that I've been filming. So when you guys watch it, there's going to be moments where, like, I have a really full face and I'm all built, and then it's going to go back to this that's right here right now. It will be interesting. I was almost tempted to be like, let me just shoot the whole thing so there's consistency. But I was like, whatever. Well, maybe people won't notice. But yeah, I'm doing that one and the New Jack Swing one at the same time. And then I've also told myself to stop telling y'all what I'm doing. Just drop it. That way y'all don't know when stuff is coming. So yeah, I got other things coming, but you won't know about them until they drop. Let's see. Somebody said Backdoor Veneers. Somebody said some celebs have them too. Yeah, a lot of celebs have veneers, but they've gotten them professionally done. I think the challenge right now is people are getting them done by people who are not professionals, right? And like I said, there's some things I think when it comes to, especially like anything cosmetic that you're going to do to yourself, you don't want to take a shortcut with that. If you're going to get breast implants or whatever you do, you probably don't want to do a shortcut on that. Like, as a man, if you're going to go and get the hair transplant, thank God my hairline ain't going nowhere. It's all here. This is all baby hair. Because true story, I have not lined this up at a barber shop since like 2014. I always let them do the side, but the top, I'm like, don't touch it. Because every time I saw all the people keep getting this zip, 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 and it kept moving further back over time. I was like, yeah. So it's all baby hair down there. But like, yeah. So if you're going to get the hair transplant, get it done by some people who understand how black hairlines are supposed to look, right? Because there's some folks who done went and got them. They look a little crazy right now. I would just suggest, like, if that's what you want to do, because I'm not even anti-plastic surgery or cosmetic work. Do whatever is going to make you happy, right? Just make sure you get it done by people who know what they're doing, right? So there's certain things, like, I just feel like anytime anybody has to do anything that's going to permanently alter, even if it's a tattoo, even if it's a piercing, you want somebody who knows what they're doing, right? That's all I'm saying. Somebody said they should just make those clip-on teeth like they do in the vampire ones on Halloween. Clip-in teeth. Because that's what they look like. I don't know why that's making me think of Tisha Campbell on Martin when she had the nails. Knock yourself out. It's making me think of that. Somebody says you have to shave down the teeth so much and you have to maintain them. Like, get them replaced often or they fall off. Yeah, it's a lot. Okay, let me get these last few topics so we're not on here all night. Actually, what else do I have? Oh, I only got 2 more things. I'm talking like we got 50 more things to cover. I did get a chance to watch the AMAs. I didn't get to watch it live because I was in New York. But whatchamacallit? I saw the Gladys night opening. Y'all know Gladys is one of my favorites. That's one of my favorite altos in the world. Gladys, to me, a song that people sleep on is Gladys Knight and the Pips, I'll Be Standing By. I think that's one of her best vocal anything. So I saw the opening she did Midnight Train in Georgia. Gladys looked great, sounded great. I actually just saw her in person, like at an event this time last year. Like one of my kids from the center was competing at a national competition, and Gladys was one of the presenters, which was really, really cool. But Gladys's team didn't want nobody bothering her, so we didn't get to talk to her. We had to just eat at the table, and Gladys is like 2 tables over, and all of us were like trying to get her attention, eating and chewing, trying to get to Gladys, right? And I didn't know Gladys's husband was so young. Like if her and the husband got on the stage, Gladys is, I think, 80, maybe 81. I know her and Patty are like the same age. And her husband got to only be like maybe 60. But on top of that, it's like a good 60. Like he could probably pass for about 49. So, yeah, so Gladys performed. Love that she got to be a part of that. Because, yeah, Gladys Knight and the Pips, one of my favorite acts. That love them. I got to see Mariah. Now, they got on my nerves a little bit because when I saw the promotions, they said she was going to be doing a medley. I said, okay, cool. Let me see what they're going to do with Mariah. And then it went to she's going to be doing 2 songs. I said, okay, I can take 2 songs, right? You know, the BET Awards back in the day, if you were the big act, they let you do 2 songs. That's why Usher did Yeah and Burn that time, right? Or the AMAs, if they let you open it, if you were having a good year, they give you that 8 minutes to open the show. So a lot of acts would normally do like 2 or 3 songs. So I think one year Beyonce did Single Ladies and If I Were a Boy. Janet one time did a medley of like What Have You Done For Me Lately and If and Miss You Much and Together Again and some other songs, a few songs. Like, they give you. So I thought Mariah was going to do that. So then she came out. She opened with Don't Forget About Us. Now, y'all can fight me. I don't care. To me, Don't Forget About Us was the best single from that album. I know everybody loves We Belong Together. My favorite song from that era was Don't Forget About Us. I love the bridge on that song. So I was happy that she started it. But then 10 seconds later, she went into We Belong Together. I'm like, what? But it was still a nice performance. There was that. Chaka Khan, y'all know she's one of my other favorites, right? I love that when she gets into her high pocket, her voice almost sounds like a trumpet. So she did I'm Every Woman. What's my favorite Chaka song? My favorite Chaka song is what's that? Popping on Butterfly. I really like that one, and I like Clouds. And Love is Has Fallen on Me. Well, a lot of those are with Rufus, but I love those. As far as her solo stuff, I like Give Me All and Once for All Time. I'm not gonna lie. I Feel For You really still be going off. That's on my gym playlist. That's a song that will never get old to me. As soon as they get to the dun, 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 like it just, as soon as that hits, I'd be in party mode every time. So she's one of my favorites as well. Oh, they did the Whitney Houston tribute, Jennifer Hudson. It's kind of cool to see things go like full circle. I remember I was a seat filler, BET Honors in 2010, and that's when they honored Whitney Houston. And then Jennifer Hudson had performed I Will Always Love You at that. So it's kind of cool to see like where Jennifer Hudson has been able to go in 14 years, right? Really, really dope. And I never got to see Whitney live, but I can at least say I was in a room with her. So I'll take it. So I got to see that. I didn't watch the whole thing. I kind of was like skimming through and doing other stuff, but those were the highlights that I remember seeing. Let me see what y'all had here. The last thing I was going to talk about, which was interesting, because somebody tried it. They sent me a message like, hey, because they got this Love Is Blind show and they're in DC. And they're like, oh, we thought we saw you on there. I was like, you ain't seen me on nobody's Love Is Blind. But I have watched that show. That is a wild show. Like I started paying attention to it last year. I forgot who got me into it, but that's a wild show. The idea of marrying somebody after only 3 weeks. I told y'all before, one of my really good friends, their parents knew each other for 2 weeks and got married. And their parents are still married and happily married. And they had 5 kids that are all like my age. Lovely family. I don't think I could marry somebody after 3 weeks. I don't think you've been together long enough to see each other's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, even that time we did the video talking about the entanglement, and I was saying how Jada was never going to leave Will for no August Alsina, because no matter what was happening, Will and Jada understand each other's crazy. Their crazy is just for them and they can live within it, right? And that's why a lot of times when there's infidelity or whatever, the people a lot of times don't leave the spouse because they know how to deal with whatever's happening with the spouse. Whatever's happening with whatever person they stepped out with, that was just a good time. That's all it's going to be. But at the end of the day, a lot of times these people still come home to their element of crazy that they understand. But anyway, the idea of marriage after 3 weeks, I don't know. And it's funny because I don't know the people's names on there, but there's one guy, every time there's a fight, he'd be packing up and leaving. He'd be staying at another hotel. That'd be me, because I'll be trying to find every reason to get out. Like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I said 3 weeks. That's very wild to me. I like the concept of them being in like the pods and getting to know each other without the physical, as far as seeing what the people look like. If you haven't seen the show, it's this random show where they put these people in these like pods where they can't see who's in the other room. All they can do is have these dates where they just hear each other, and they can order food and stuff, but they just have these conversations and like get to know each other on like a deeper level. And then, which I think is stupid, then they gotta propose to the person. You don't know what they look like. You gotta propose after you've had these great conversations. And then after the person says yes, then they have the reveal and they can see what the person looks like. Then the show makes them move in together. And then they got to get married right away. I said, see, y'all be setting people up to fail. But that's a wild little show there. You wouldn't have to worry about me going on that show for the person that thought I was on there. I was like, I know they said DC, but if you see me on a reality show, it won't be for dating. Like, if you see me on TV with any kind of show, the show I want to go on is Wheel of Fortune, right? I'm trying to win me some fast money because I be getting all the puzzles right. I would have said beat Shazam, but I noticed that in modern times, I'm not as well versed with the current music, so that's how I would end up losing the show. Anyway, I think those are all my big topics. Oh, I did get to go to the second installment of the Kirk Franklin reunion show. I think they're still on tour. Go see it if you haven't. It was a really, really dope show. Maybe I don't know if I talked about it on the last slide, but it was a great time. If you just want to hear some good singing, like some singing, right? Because it's Kiara Sheard, it's the Clark sisters. I saw that Atlanta got Twinkie. DC, we didn't get Twinkie. It's okay, but they still gave us a good show. Marvin Sapp, Fred Hammond, and then, of course, Kirk Franklin. Am I skipping anybody? I think that's everybody. But yeah, some really great and members of commission were in the show. So it was like some really, really great singing, right? So when you just like that idea of musicality and just the vocals, even if you're not a religious person or spiritual or anything like that, if you just want to hear some great singing, that's a great show to see. Lots of great energy. The band, it's a great time. Anyway, let's see here. We'll start winding down on here. Queen said, no x-rays, periodontal disease, teeth, and cavities. The long-term effects is going to be bad. A lot of licensed dentists don't even want to repair these veneer nightmares. A lot of dentists don't even want to repair these veneer nightmares work done either. Why am I acting like I can't read? A lot of licensed dentists don't even want to repair these veneer nightmare work. Oh, it's just waste rate. Okay. They don't want to repair the work. It's nightmares, right? Yeah, that's even like when you watch the show Botched, when the people went and got the bad surgery, and I don't know, they got like a growth coming out of their arm because they try to do a bicep and tricep implant, and then the doctor's like, or even a better example is like sometimes there's people who get the really, really massive implants for their breasts, like really, really big, and it keep get bigger and bigger to the point where the skin has stretched so much, and it's almost to the point, not to be graphic, but like the areolas and stuff, like that portion is almost about to die as far as the skin. And then the doctor's like, we don't want to touch it because the area is too sensitive. Like that's wild to me, like scary. But let's see. Somebody said no water pick equipment in these places. Dry drilling on with enamel. That sounds painful. I will tell you, my only beef with the dentist sometimes when they got that water that's spraying, sometimes that water is so cold. I'm like, oh, dang, wait a minute, hold on, y'all. Give me some room temperature. Right? They be spraying right on the front big tooth, and that tooth just be feeling like you bit into a popsicle. Like, give me a minute, y'all. Hold on. All right. Let's see. Somebody said you have to drink liquids for the rest of your life. Yeah, they're gonna be drinking inshore for dinner. That's what I had to do when I was sick them 3 weeks. I was so mad because I couldn't hold anything down. Ensure was for some reason I could kind of take a few sips here and there and kind of get a meal. I think that's why I lost all the weight, because I wasn't getting enough calories. Somebody said, Calvin, I can see you being a professor. You better educate us. I will say the last career I want to have before I retire was actually teaching on like a college level, but that means I have to go back to school at some point. And I don't know when that's going to happen. There's no time for it, but we'll see one of these days. I got plenty of time though. I'm still young. Speaking of, we were just talking about this, Carrie. Aside from being an awesome creative, I wonder if you ever consider being an educator at a Black university or any school majoring in Black studies, urban studies, or sociology. So to go further into my conversation, my last career I would want to have is actually teaching Black history at specifically Howard, but I'd love to teach at any HBCU. I wouldn't mind teaching at a majority institution either, but I just think how do I say this? Like, it's just something a little different about an HBCU in these conversations, because sometimes you're able to get further along with the discourse, because sometimes, and I've said this before, even on this channel, like even when we talk race, talking race sometimes can be hard if the other person already doesn't believe that there's an issue with race in the country, right? And a lot of times at some majority institutions, and I'm talking at institutions where like almost every student is white, right? Before you can even get to the real conversations, you have to get people to even understand that there's a problem. Most of the kickback that a lot of like Black content creators get in regard to conversations around race comes from people who don't even think there's a problem, who think that the issues that exist with race or history or blah, 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 it's only happening because you keep bringing it up. If we just move on, we'll be good, right? So at least sometimes at HBCU, and it's not saying that all the students are going to be receptive. It's going to still be the ones in there like, okay, pull yourself up. Y'all it just sounds like you're making excuses at the moment. Like it's still all of that. But I would just love to do it in HBCU. I actually changed my mind about it. Maybe I'll consider it next year. There was a fellowship I was looking at Princeton this year, but I said maybe I'll look at it next year. But I thought it was a really cool fellowship, but it was actually for the arts, where they give you, you get this stipend for 2 years, and you get to work on some kind of creative project for 2 years. And then you also get to lecture at the same time. And then at the 2 years, you do your presentation of whatever project it is, whether it was like a full theater production or like a music project or a book or a novel. So I was really considering it, but I was like, I'm not ready yet. So who knows? Maybe we'll look at that next year. But yeah, one of my things has always been teaching. Like, I think that's why I stayed with the kids for so long, even though it wasn't like I wasn't up there talking about, the convict leasing this to 13-year-olds, but it was kind of cool to kind of like share insight with them and stuff. But we'll see. Let's see. Somebody said, leave them edges alone. Don't get the receding hairline. Like, I already got forehead, so I don't want to do anything that's going to make this move at all. Like, I've been blessed at this age that nothing has moved. This forehead his forehead's always been there, right? There's no balding in the back. All this is still full. Like, thank you, God. We're going to keep that going. So yeah, I would not purposely try to mess it up. That's why, like, I don't like the idea of them doing the lineup right here. Plus the kind of hair, like, you guys always see me at like 9 o'clock after I've lived all day and hair's all whatever. Like, if you see me in the mornings, the juices and berries are there. This is way down here, like in these little nice, tight, moisturized curls. And by the end of the day, it goes right back up to the top and shrivels down. So there's never a need to get a lineup right here because you never see it anyway. Unless I like start wearing my hair twisted up again, or like I used to have it tied back way back when with like the braids and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. Somebody said Gladys Knight came to my dad's wake. Oh, that's cool. It's crazy how people be knowing folks, right? Yeah, like Cassie Russell, the NBA player that used to play for the 76ers, he's the guy that eulogized my grandma, which is kind of cool. Because they all are from the same area. Brown's Beauty said 3 years isn't even enough for some people. They be dating for decades. Now, I don't know if I want to date for decades before I decide if I'm gonna marry you or not, but I know I can't make that choice in no 3 weeks. Like, we need to go through a few experiences, right? We need to go through being in a traffic jam for 4 hours. Like, how does the mood change in the car? we need to go through, like, what else do we need to go through? You go through all the things to see how people move and stuff. We got to go through the experience of when the other person's parent has got on your nerves and how do you move in that space. We got to go through, like, I don't know, the things people deal with, right? In everyday life, how do people move, right? And I'm not saying that relationships are supposed to be chaotic, but I do think you want to know what to expect when the person is at their worst, right? So you don't have any surprises. Calvin, would you go on The Bachelor? No, because I'm not about to sit here. What, The Bachelor is the one, or is that The Bachelorette? You're like, I've never watched the show, but I know it's like 15 people competing for one person. I'm not fighting with 14 other people for your attention. Like, either we a thing or we not, right? And if it's the other way around, where it's like I gotta choose out of 15, I don't like that either, because you're playing with people's emotions and stuff. Yeah, that ain't gonna work either. No. And they be on these shows lying. That's what I was seeing on The Love Is Blind. Like, I don't know the people's names, but one guy was telling this girl everything. You, the world to me. I can see myself with you. I wake up and you're the first thing I think about. And then 10 minutes later in the same episode, he with the other woman. You are the love of my life. I said, wait a minute, hold on. Something ain't adding up in this thing, right? No, that ain't how this works. And then I always wonder, like, what happens when the people watch the show back and they they see what the person ended up doing behind the scenes. No, yeah, I can't. I'll tell you, the one reality show I would have went on, it's not on anymore. There was a show called Platinum Hit, that was like 2011, 2010, which I thought was a really cool show, where it was like songwriters. They had to come up with a new song every week, and then you get eliminated by the week. And I think the judges were either Jewel or Leanne Rhymes was one of the judges. But yeah, you had to write the song. You had to write the song and then produce it and then perform it. They didn't care if you could sing it or not. They just wanted to see how the song would kind of come out. That was a cool show. I'd do something like that. Maybe 10 years ago, I would have done something like The Real World, even though I feel like based on after I do my interview, they'd make sure that I was the only black person in the house. And I know they put a white supremacist in the house, and they would make sure he's bigger than me, way bigger, like 6'5", 260 pounds of muscle. They would make sure it's because they want some good TV, because they know I'm going to talk trash. And then when it's time to square up, it's like, okay, all right, I'm going to have to go for your knees. I'm going to just have to take a hammer straight to your knee because I don't think I can punch that high. I would have done that show. I wouldn't have done anything like Making the Band because I'm not walking for cheesecake. But that could have been a cool show. Stupid Donald Trump. I'm not going to lie. The Apprentice was one of my favorite shows. The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice were two of my favorite shows in college. This is way before Trump became Trump. This is even before he was asking for Obama's college grades. I used to watch The Apprentice in college, and I'm like, oh, I know I could win on this show. Like, I know I would have won on this show. I used to love that show. I would have gone on that back in the day. Like, I definitely would have went on The Apprentice way back in the day. I used to love when they would get in the boardroom and all turn on each other, and who was project manager, and they would just be throwing each other under the bus. I'm like, damn. And then once they came up with Celebrity Apprentice, I mean, I'm not a celebrity, but I enjoyed watching that one, especially the seasons with like LaToya Jackson on it, because she was on there like 3 different times. Man, when her and Omarosa got into it, like I know y'all be laughing at when Nene called her Casper the Ghost, but side note, I hope LaToya is fine. I saw like a clip of her the other day, and she is very, very, very skinny. I hope she's good. I really do. But yeah, there's her and Omarosa. She had this line in there where she's like, Omarosa's husband, Michael Clark Duncan, died of a heart attack. She probably gave it to him. I'm like, like, dang, they were going at it. That was my show. And the one with Dionne Warwick on there, when they had all the women had it was a competition where it was the men versus the women, and they had to have the restaurant and, the burger joint. Whoever's made the most money at the end wins. And somebody decided to put Dionne Warwick on the cash register, right? And so there's this long line all through Manhattan. They are moving so slow, and it's like driving Star Jones crazy because Dionne's on that register. Doop. Doop. You said the fries? Hold on, baby. Okay. Doop. And then like Star was like, Dionne, you need some help. I mean, we can. Nah, I got it. It'll be all right. Well, Dionne, we got a line. They'll wait. It'll be all right. No need to get excited. And I was like shaking in the chair like, Dionne, we're trying to win. I definitely go on that show. But Dionne was hilarious because I can't wait to get to the age where I don't care what I say. Like, once you hit a certain age, you ain't worried about nobody's feelings. Dionne was chewing everybody out on that show. And the funniest bit is when her and there was Marla, I was about to say Marla Gibbs, but that's the actress. I don't know Marla's last name, but she was a deaf and hard of hearing public figure. And so Dionne, they were something about a story, right? But she was saying something about how the kids were supposed they were supposed to present a story to the kids and act it out. And it was somehow they wanted Marley to be the main character, but Dionne didn't want that because she felt like the kids would feel sorry for the woman because she was deaf. So mind you, every time Marley or Marla had something to say, her interpreter would do the talking. And so like Dionne is like, they're gonna feel sorry for her. So then Marla starts signing, saying like, well, no, I ain't never felt sorry for myself. Something. And then like the interpreter is the one saying it. So he's like, I've never felt sorry for something. So Dionne starts yelling at the interpreter, and he's like, no, it's not me saying it, it's her. And she's like, okay, well, give it to who it's supposed to go to. Like, that was my show. Oh, man, that was a good time. Man, oh, gosh. Take me back. The world didn't seem as crazy then. It was still crazy, but maybe because I was younger, I wasn't as stressed about the world. Yeah, when Dionne started yelling at the interpreter, I didn't say you said that. He was like, no, I didn't say it. She said it. Well, whoever said it. What a time, what a time. Somebody said Calvin wants to make sure we all know he still has all his birth hair. Thank God. I'm just saying, man, this is the age where it starts disappearing for folks. Like, man, that's why I'll probably never get locks, because once they start getting heavy, that's when they start pulling, and that's when they start turning into an M shape. So I'm like, nope, nope. So we'll do everything else. I keep stuff light. Or if I ever did get locks, I wouldn't let them get super long. I don't want them to get heavy. I'd probably do the sister locks, like the really, really thin ones. Let's see. Somebody said also barbers always pointed it out. It's so annoying. That happens less when I'm an adult. Plus, them barbers cannot touch my head with that dang chalk thing or that black. You're not about to be playing crayons and then Crayola in my head at all. Just do the lineup like y'all used to do in the 90s and early 2000s. Put the chalk and the crayons away. Okay? You want to charge people $50 and you over here drawing in their head. And then it rain and stuff start coming down their forehead. Now their forehead done broke out. No. All right. Somebody said them balloon pop dating shows are a no. Yeah, we talked about that last week. See, the part that gets me is after the people pop the balloon, then you got to sit there and be told why they don't want you. If I walk in a room and every balloon pops, I'm not standing there waiting to hear what all 15 of y'all think about me. Don't worry about it. I'm good. Like, I'll go in the car and cry on my own. I don't need this in front of y'all. You walk in the room that dang, I didn't even get to come into the room good. And it's always like a petty reason too. So no, I'm good on that. Somebody said, I think it would be fun to do the pod dating in person with the marriage/filming, but I'd be exhausted by talking to too many people and getting names mixed up. I just wouldn't like the idea of talking to like 5 and 6 people at the same time and then trying. I mean, I get it because it's kind of like you're working the dating pool, but the way that the Love is Blind show is set up, it's like because it's so accelerated, they're trying to get everybody to get on a deeper level really, really quick. I think it's really hard to do that with people sometimes, especially 5, 6 people all at the same time. And you don't know what they look like. And then they're also talking to other people too. And so imagine you get excited, you put all your eggs into this basket thinking, this person's going to be the one. And they done already picked the other guy. And before you know it, nobody picked you. Now you're going home. Right. And then you got to sit back at home and watch it. That's a lot. Great TV though, but couldn't be me. Somebody said, yes, loves Platinum Hit. So sad they canceled it after 1 season. Yeah, I really enjoyed that show. That was a cool one. Somebody said, I'd only seen the clips of The Apprentice with Nene Leakes. Nene was funny on that too. Like, there's that gif I always see where I don't know what they're doing. Nene's like painting an egg or something in a cup, and she just looks at everybody like she has just been through it, like just done. I always laugh every time I see that. I don't know what episode that's from, but when I figure out what episode that is, because whatever they did that day, she wasn't feeling nobody. Like, it's funny because there's some people who just can't hide it on their face when they've checked out from something. And sometimes that can be funny. Let's see. Somebody said Dion called somebody a hussy or something like that. Oh yeah, I got your number, hussy. I forgot who that was about. Yeah. Oh, my cousin's on here. Super Bablazo. Okay. That's my cousin Brandon. So, like, we don't know what this show is, but like it was one of these summers when we were kids and we had turned it to Univision, or maybe it was Telemundo. We don't know what it is. But it was some kind of game show. Maybe my Latin American folks can tell me what it is. It was a show called Super Bablazo, right? Some kind of game show. We couldn't ever understand anything, but we would sit and watch the whole thing. And I'm gonna tell you why we ended up watching it, because at the end, there will be these dancers that came out with like just literally in bras and it was like a big celebration. And we would sit and wait for that part. And I remember my aunt Sylvia was like, "What the hell? What kind of show is this?" Right? So Super Bablazo, I don't know what the show is about. We just remember that like we were like 12 or 13, and then here come the ladies in like these like bikini tops just bouncing, and you're the little hormonal teenagers. Like, I don't know what the show is about, but at the end of the show, the dancers came out to celebrate. We were like, okay, my aunt was like, we gonna watch something else, and she make us watch Twilight or something else. Let's see. Somebody said, Joe Mario said, no razor either. It'll break me out so bad. I am fighting for my life. I keep getting really bad, like ingrown hairs as of late, and I don't use razors. I use a clipper, so I'm kind of letting this grow a little bit, so I'm not constantly shaving and irritating my face. It's the downside to just having kind of like coily, curly anything. Sometimes the hair likes to curl under the skin, which is not great. So yeah, that sucks. Somebody said, Calvin, that camera's crystal clear. It's fire. This is a Logi. Do I got the box? Logi HD 1080 camera. Mind you, I bought this thing years ago. I got it from Best Buy for like $40. Is there another? I don't know if I have the box down here. Otherwise, I'll tell you exactly what I got. Let me see. I might still have the box. I know I have no problem telling y'all what resources I use, so because I want everybody to be great. I don't have the box no more, but it's like a Logi, some LOGI HD 1080 camera, and it's like this little tiny thing like this big, and I just have it sitting on the speaker right here, and then it does its thing. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna start winding down here. Somebody said try Magic Shave Cream. I started using this called like the bump stopper thing. That's kind of been helping a little bit. And then I have to not touch my face, which I'm guilty of doing sometimes. I'm always like touching or trying to use the plier to pull that random hair from underwear. Or too graphic, but yeah, it's the only thing. Sometimes I miss when I didn't have the side facial hair and I just had this little goatee here, because this was never a problem until the facial hair started growing. Calvin, have you ever seen To Roam for Love? No, I don't know that one. To Roam for Love. Is that like Flavor of Love? No, I don't know that one. Let's see. Somebody said, I think it's Don Francisco. I don't know what that is either. Let's see. I don't know. Jennifer Wade, looking like an unalive scene on Coming to America with that chop on the hairline. And it's all new. I don't remember them doing that for, I guess because I've really kind of had a lot of hair for a good while. Like I think the last time I had a low cut, like wavelength was maybe like 2015, I think. I can't remember the last time. So I've always kind of had like some element of hair, like about this much or maybe more sometimes. Right now it's kind of, I've had more before, but I've been chopping it a little bit. But I don't remember when they started the chalk thing. That was new to me. I started seeing that on social media, and like folks will leave the barbershop and be showing their haircut with that bright white line. And I'm like, is this a poster? I mean, it looked cool. I'm not judging. Do what you do. I know for me, I'd be in there kind of patting the chalk off, but it is what I'd rather have the chalk than that black line, at least, because the chalk, it looks like the chalk is just for that first 30 or 40 minutes after the haircut. But that black line, I think I just want to see what the pillowcases look like. That's all I'm saying. Somebody said I'm making a U-turn if I hear a roll of pops. Yeah, and then and then they're shady on the balloon show, because then after they pop your balloon, and then after they tell you why you are not their type, then they ask you, well, is this the kind of person that you would probably talk to? And now you got to decipher as to whether you want to be just as terrible back to them and give them exactly what they gave you, or do you want to be honest? Yeah, I'd be too petty for that show. Somebody said on the plus side, I like the curl pattern of my lashes. Don't even know why I have to use lash curling. I have longer lashes, but I can't stand it because mine sometimes will curl back and poke me back in the eye, or when they get in your eye. I can't stand it. Thoughts on DDG and Holly? I don't really follow them. I heard they broke up. I have nothing to give. I'm sorry. I don't really follow them enough to really know what's happened with them. I remember there was a period where like she was pregnant and had the baby, and she was kind of keeping it, they wanted to keep their business private, but I haven't really paid attention to the two of them like that. Man, somebody said alloy, and for irritation back teeny, I got that big old jar of the alloy in there too. Alloy, it's aloe, like why am I saying alloy? Alloy is like a metal, ain't it? Alloy. Okay. Anyway, somebody said, I thought the chalk was an accident and it's supposed to be wiped off. I thought they used that to, draw on, and then they cut around it and then it's supposed to be wiped off. I don't know. Maybe people want to keep it on. People, do what y'all do. All right. Who knows? Maybe if, I'm not going to say if, because I don't want that to happen. Maybe when my stuff starts sliding back, I'll be chopped up too. I don't know. Or maybe one of these days I might do the big chop and go back to wavelength, and I might have the chalk line while I'm doing all this talking. So who knows? All right, how much time we got? I got about a few more minutes before I need to get off this call tonight. I'm gonna respond to them later with that. Let's see. Anything else in here? Y'all still hanging with me too. Somebody said they would have done College Hill. College Hill was okay. They had like a day on BET where they were showing all the old episodes one time. Somebody said Got to Be Real as a classic. Yeah, those were funny. I like that one. I think I have. Yeah, I think somebody had saved all the episodes and sent it as a file. I made sure to save those. The one thing I wish I could still get on that same channel. Remember when Patty was on Tyra, and there was that lady who was giving her a difficult time about the paper on the cupcake. The her name was Patty LaHelle, who had the YouTube channel that they got to be real, but she did a parody of that, or like that thing was so funny, but I can't find it anywhere because she took it down. But that was really, really funny. Yeah. Let's see, we got the line down on here. Somebody said, judge away. No, see, I don't want to judge because then I'd be having then it opens the door for me to get flamed and fried up too. I ain't trying to get cooked tonight. So, man. Oh, somebody said aloe directly from the plant. You'll feel the difference. Yeah, I'm gonna have to grow some in the sunroom. Be out there popping that thing and just wiping it there. Yeah. All right. I would have done True Life from MTV. True Life was a really, really good show. They had some great. We were talking about that on the last live too. They had some dope episodes. If I have I don't know if I have a favorite True Life episode. I remember they had the one with the people that were homeless. They had the one we were talking about last week was the kids who had parents that were like overly sexy with their clothes and embarrassing the kids. That was a funny one. They had the ones with people who were addicts. True Life. They had a bunch of them. One that concerned me a bit. What was that one? It'll come to me later. Anyway. Okay, they said all the Patty LaHelle episodes are backed up on the Internet Archive. Well, okay, I need to check that out because I want to find that Patty clip with her on Tyra. That was funny because I mean the actual clip is out there, but the one that Patty LaHelle actually edited and put commentary over, that thing was hilarious. Because it had like the real Patty's like temper building up every time the lady kept doing different microaggressions towards Patty. So by the end, Patty that thing was hilarious. Somebody said, I remember I tried to be on the show Fanatic for Tito Jackson's 3T, and my friend's brother recorded a game over my submission tape. Fanatic was a cool show. Actually, that was a really cool show. That was the show with MTV. You know, people who were like a super big fan would write the letter and they get to hang with their favorite celebrity. Like MTV used to have a bunch of cool shows. Back in the day, I would have wanted to go on like Fanatic to be with TLC, but they already had somebody that was on there, this one guy. And then yeah, Fanatic was a cool one. I like Say What Karaoke was still a show, I'd go on that even today. That was my show. You know, you get to go in there and pick your song and they give you a rating. And if you make it to the next round, then you got to spin the wheel and do whatever song the wheel lands on. That'd be fun. I would do that. What else did they have that was good on there? I can't remember. I mean, they had some good shows back then. What? You know, it's funny. The lady that heckled Patty is Dan Snyder's wife. I would have never known that. Wow, that explains a lot. Yeah, she said, "You paper bag." Oh man, that's why I gotta find the clip because Patty asks the lady a question. The lady was like, ah. And then Patty catches it. Like, did you just me? Like, man. Okay, man. Let's see. Somebody said, y'all name dropping some good shows. Didn't know they existed. Well, to be fair, a lot of these shows are like 20 plus years ago. So like if you're under a certain age, these aren't even in like reruns or anything. So a lot of these people wouldn't remember. I did not know that was the wife. See, that explains why she was moving the way she was moving. Talking about paper bad, cake good. All right. Anything else? We gotta wind down. I'm literally just chopping it up with y'all. I don't think there's anything else worth sharing before I get off here. Somebody said Baldwin Hills in College Hill. I've never watched Baldwin Hills, but I remember it being on TV. Somebody said they missed the OB, TDB. I miss all the old. TV is just weird anyway now. It's like all the networks kind of suck, to be honest. I mean, some of them got some good stuff, but I miss the way television was way back when. I miss when sitcoms had like 22 episodes and not just 8. I hate that a lot of the shows on the streaming platforms, even when they're doing well, they still get canceled after a season or two because streaming platforms don't want to spend the money. I hate that. I would like for there to be more sitcoms that still have the live studio audience, because I kind of like that kind of humor a little bit more. I like the one camera shows or whatever, like Abbott Elementary and stuff is cool, or like a Modern Family, but I like shows that had the studio audience as well. Those used to be, I think I laugh harder at those. But it's generational. Everybody has their own thing they're into. MTV Made was good. I like that one. That's when you want to be made into something. I remember the white girl that wanted to be on the dance team at the school. They had the dance team Cuda Flavor. I don't remember what city they were in, but then the choreographer came to work with her. She just wasn't really the best dancer, and she kept having meltdowns and crying. And that lady was like, "Listen, I'm gonna let you have your meltdown, but we still gonna do this routine. We still gonna have this rehearsal." But she didn't end up making the dance team at the end, but they still let her come out and just dance at the school assembly. Like, I remember that episode. What else was on Made? I want to be made. I want to be made. That was what they kept saying. We talked about the white boy that wanted to be a rapper, and that his dad actually was the drummer for the act that had the song Funky Town. Or maybe he wrote Funky Town. I don't know. Made. What else was on Made? I'm forgetting. You know the show I used to like? I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was called When I Was in High School, and they talk about like stupid things they did and how they got in trouble. That was a fun one. That was a funny one to watch. Let's see. Yes, make theme songs great again in 2028. We had the combo, but yeah, the theme songs ain't hitting like they used to at all. All right. Anyway, we're about to call it a night. I'm about to go to bed. Like I said, book club, Monday the 21st. Anything else that I'm supposed to be sharing with y'all? Whatever I haven't shared, I'll put it in the community tab. Yeah, I'll stop there. I'm not gonna share nothing else. But anyway, okay. So I'll see you guys. God willing, I'll be able to get some other things. I know the podcast is supposed to have a new episode. I got a friend in the ICU right now, so that kind of messed up my joy. I wasn't really in the mood to really make people laugh, but I'll get that managed, and then we'll still get the episode. Because there's some crazy things that still happen in this story, and a lot of you guys are waiting because there's a cliffhanger from the last episode. So I need to address what happens because it's some shenanigans. Anyway, I'm out. So again, stay safe, stay sane, and mind your business so that you can age well. Good night, folks.